don't know if I'd say I process everything. There's, as you sit back and reflect on the season, there's things that pop in mind that I hadn't thought about. There's always some new things. But, yeah, I think it was a season with many sort of just twists and turns and variables and different things that were going on. Ultimately, like the timeliness of our injuries and the fact that we could never really put the semblance of what you would probably define as our top group together in any sort of consistent fashion plays a role. Continuity is a huge thing inside of a season and a team, because when you have continuity, you not only can lay down sort of your game model and you can lay down your priorities and how you want to play, but you can start to build nuances. You can start to get deeper about things. You can get into more details. And for us, we were almost never even able to get into some of those things because we were always just reshifting, readjusting, just trying to get around. And, I went back and through this process, just looking back at where we were at the beginning of the season with our group. And, when you start a season, I think in our first game or couple games, Memo was playing left wing and Efra was right wing. Dejan was up top, Riqui underneath. We were struggling to score goals in the first part of the season. We lacked really some of the dynamic stuff that you need inside of our league to be effective in transition and to be able to stretch the spaces so that our forwards could get off and running. That was a little bit of the beginning. We were defending okay, but we were not great, but okay, I think. But we just couldn't get goals to get on the right side of some of the early results, We were lacking Douglas. We were lacking Javi at the beginning. Obviously, losing Sam, we weren't able to replace him right off the bat in the way that we did. You lose Kevin, and losing Kevin was basically just a wash to break even in some ways, and you don't get that asset or utilize the asset when you make a trade. So it just became where we lost some of our dynamic qualities and weren't able to replace them, and I think that hurt us in the early stages as we struggled to score goals, but we were pretty sound and we were somewhat healthy on the defensive side. I think Chris was the one we were kind of struggling to get there actually, and Sega was not so available at the beginning, so we were sort of healthy, but not really. And then we started to, we had a hard time getting those early results, which builds stress. It builds lots of things inside of the group emotionally, trying to just get over that initial hump. I think, in my opinion, it's neither here nor there, but I think we had a couple results that I think we should have really accounted for. We had the very difficult handball at home when Dejan was called for the handball late when he scored, when it kind of hits off of his chest and he scores against Vancouver last minutes of the game. For me, that's a really difficult call from where the referee was, and it stands, and that's probably a first win in maybe like the third game of the season. Dejan gets his first goal. He doesn't have the stress that he's carrying for not scoring goals. The team gets its first win. It takes some stress off potentially. So just a lot of untimely things that didn't go in our favor at the beginning, along with some of the challenges. And again, it builds that stress, things that were going on. We playing home games and it's really quiet. Not really quiet. I appreciate the fans that were there, but it's different. It was different. There wasn't as much energy in the stands, and so there's a lot of little things. We weren't able to overcome those things. Let's just put it that way. As a group, we weren't able to overcome, and we needed to, and we had to, and we weren't able to. And that gave us, I think we had 9 points coming out of the first 14 games of the season. And that puts you in a tough place. We felt like if we could get healthy and we could stay healthy, that we weren't so far out of it, and there were still a lot of games left, that we could get there. And now we're talking about like June 1, roughly. We're starting to get a few guys back. Javi's coming back. I think some of the guys are coming back, and then we start to lose guys one by one. To not just injuries where they're going to be out for a few weeks, but to injuries where we're losing guys for the season. And these are not any guys. These are guys who were supposed to be like the primary guys of our group, And so I felt like the group was extremely resilient for the next 15 games. Despite losing the guys we lost, I think we put down, I think it was maybe 26 points roughly over the next 15 at like a 1.62 points per game average, which was like second or third in the West during that stretch. So despite losing players, we were managing to at least take points that would have kept us in a solid position. And then we lose Riqui and we lose Mark down the stretch in the 5 most important games when you really have to take points. And the other thing that was hard was even when we were going 1.62, we weren't moving up the table. We were kind of staying in the same space, and there was a few games where we needed a win and we drew. And if we would have won, we probably would have jumped a couple teams and it would have felt or looked a little different. And we drew out a few times that we needed to win games at home and some others. I think, from June 1 and the other night was the first time we've lost at home since, June 1, which was several, I don't know how many exactly games, but I was really proud of again, it's the resiliency, but the quality wasn't there for us as a group. And I'm not putting that on the players. All of us, we just didn't get enough quality to make the plays we needed to make, both on the defending side, because we started to score goals again, but then we became really vulnerable defensively when you're talking about so many different back lines, guys playing with different faces all the time. It became where the lack of continuity, I think, in the back line was hurting us a little bit. And the fact that we're conceding goals then puts more stress on the attack, because attackers are thinking, okay, we're going to need to score 2, 3, 4 goals a game to try to win games. And so sometimes we overplay situations where we need to stay just in control of it. And those things just didn't come together in a seamless way. We had ebbs and flows in the season, but we never were able to really have that consistency that I think you need to have a solid season. And it's unfortunate. I was thinking in the last game, I don't know if I said it the other night, that I don't even think any of us even remember what our top form even looks like or what it might look like with everybody, because we just haven't seen that group in so long that it's easy to kind of, for your barometer to sort of shift, because you've seen so many different variations of different guys, and to remember what our top level even looked like was hard to even imagine, even at the end of the season. So, but the guys fought and they battled, and I was super proud of the group, just for their commitment and effort, in which they should. They're professionals, and that's the way it should be. But they were, and they did, and it was a tough season, and we stayed in it till 2 games left, and we just didn't have enough, and that's something that we've got to continue to think about in all aspects, right? In all aspects of the game, and the club will continue to reevaluate certain things. But every one of the guys that we lost in season injuring was in a game. It was not in a training field. It was in a game situation. Most of them non-contact. I think one was Martin was contact. Losing Riqui at the end was a horrible tackle from behind, in my opinion, that he almost misses the rest of the season in a really important time. So, but a lot of these were non-contact. I think, as I said the other day, we have to have a really close reevaluation of how we want to approach some of our really busy schedule, when these games are really squeezed together due to Leagues Cup, the management of the other thing that happens, and this is what I saw in 2018 with Toronto, is when your team is a little thin, in the first 7-8 games of the season, we're once a week. And that's okay. If your team's a little bit thin, you can prepare a group week on week, and you don't have to go too much into the rotations. But then you start to get into, I think it was late April, May, where you're starting to play 15. I think it was like we had like 6 or 7 games in 20 through 21 to 24 days or something. And you're a little bit thin, then you're trying to, and you're a little bit behind because you didn't pick up the early results. You're trying to, you're not so much into rotating you're kind of into trying to get the best possible group you can out there to try to take points, because you've dropped some points early, and now you've got games back to back to back and like this. And so that in of itself is extremely challenging. So again, we just never really got onto we never really got on the right side of this season ever, even though I think we had a sound, not amazing, but a sound stretch in the summer.
And also, you look at the Riqui, Douglas, and Yoshida. I think they've only played they're only available for like 2 games, I think.
Yeah, I know I saw, we went back and looked, and it was 20 minutes, I think, on the field together, and that was in Austin from minute 60 to roughly 80. Is the only time I could find that they were actually all on the field together at the same time this season, for league play anyways. I don't know if I was missing something else, but we tried to find that. Another challenge, and that's one of the things that you want to do the best you can to try to ensure, and there's never a guarantee in that, is that your DPs, your best players, because that's what you're kind of building the whole structure around these types of players, is that they're on the field as much as you possibly can get them on the field, playing together. Those are your difference makers, and we just never got on the right side of that this year from the start.
And then with players like Gaston on the way back, and then Jalen, what this year might be next year with national team and all that, how does that affect how you build the roster going forward here, probably with two open DP spots probably?
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts of this, which is just kind of building our core group of players that you never want to have a ton of turnover from year to year. And I do think we have, when healthy, I do think we have a solid core group of players, of which you're always going to add a couple and subtract a couple along the way. Got to get your top end, your DP players. We've got to get that right, no matter what that looks like. And then Jalen as a young player, having him gain the experiences that he had gained at the beginning of this year, there's less questions about what his level is going to look like. Coming into this season, I would say, Jalen's for sure going to play some games, and we're going to see last year and see what this looks like. For me, I think he's one of our center backs that we can rely on in terms of his quality and how much he's developed as a player and physically developed. He's a guy that will be a core part of our center back group next year. That we know, so we'll build him in with that mindset. Gaston coming back a little bit for me, and Gaston is positional, how we utilize him, because it was in the last year and a half or so, he's been primarily our 6, but I think he has some qualities that can suit more of an 8 and up and down, box to box type of role, where he isn't just sitting in that position. So, depending on exactly how that plays out, might determine how we continue to structure our midfield and build around and build depth into that. So looking at those guys specifically, it's just going to be their roles, and I suspect both of them to play big roles in the team next year as we continue to build forward and being a part of that core group of guys.
I want to ask about a few players in regards to next year. And I know you guys are talking to Tyler. I'm guessing he is somebody that you definitely would like to have back.
Yeah, I thought Tyler, again, talking about guys early in the season, he showed up late into preseason and hadn't played for a while. So once he got fit, and once I think he got himself kind of integrated in the group, I'm not sure exactly how many games that was in, then I felt like you saw he was different than in our team, because he was dynamic, because he was a runner off the ball, because he was constantly stretching and going in behind. I think as he started to find his level and Douglas started to get healthy, then we started to become, and Riqui started to find, again, his group and his people and his integration in there. That's when I think we started to find goals. I think we started to have a better balance in our attack. And a part of that was Ty just finding, again, his form and fitness and all those things. So having that dynamic piece is so important. Having more than one, but having those dynamic pieces are so important in this league, because it is a league that has transitions and probably more than most leagues. It is a league that does have transitions that you have to be able to use. You've got to be able to stretch the opposition and play behind the opposition, especially if you want to be a team that controls possession. You got to have guys who are willing to work the spaces behind and create space for the guys who are in between lines. And Ty gave us a lot of that this season, which was important for our group. And so of course, don't want to lose the guy like that. We would like to keep him and keep integrating him into what we're doing.
Do you expect it to sign him? You think that it's going to be fairly simple?
I do. I think, and I hope, I never know because I don't know what the expectations of the players and the agents are in these types of situations. I know he wants to be in LA, his family's here, he'd love to be here, we want him here. So on the basis of that, I hope there's definitely a deal there to be done, and that's my hope.
Douglas sounds like he's uncertain as to what he wants to do. And, is the club uncertain as to what it wants to do, or would you like to bring him back?
I think Douglas, once he got healthy, and I think when he got healthy, I saw a more relaxed Douglas. I don't think he was thinking about things so much, and more when I say that, like his physical well-being. I think when he got healthy, he got happy. I think those two things kind of coincided. As he got healthy and happy, he started to perform in a way that was really different. He was a joy, especially when he got to that point. He was a joy to be around, to watch in training, to see. I think he let a little bit of the early parachute that I think he had on him, on his back, where he didn't really want to put himself way out there because physically maybe he was a little more fragile than he wanted. But I think when all of that kind of went away, I thought we started to see Douglas, and I think that was fun to watch, and it was amazing. By the end of the year, he was getting in the box, he was running behind, he was doing things that we were imploring him to do early on. He was starting to do it, goal dangerous, assist dangerous, all those kinds of things. So what I think Douglas, for him personally, I think he's revitalized his career a little bit, because maybe a year and a half ago, over the last 3 years, he was a guy that was always injured, and could you count on him? And I think down this last stretch for him, I think he's shown health and that he can find his form again. The challenge for us in the talk through is when we talk about our DPs is we have to know that our DPs are going to be on the field and going to be available as much as possible. Even you can talk, there are levels of qualities of player in the world, and even the highest level player, if they're not on the field, they can't help you. And so that's the evaluation that's going on, and the discussion also even with Douglas as to how or if he were to be here, how that could even work in the DP spot, for example, because you just got to know that with some level of certainty you're going to have availability as much as possible, barring the situation that we saw with some of our guys this year. So.
But Chicharito, he's one that I think a lot of people are not expecting back. Is he someone that you want to bring back? Is he interested in coming back? Does it work given his age, given the needs, given how valuable a DP player is?
Yeah, some of the things that I just mentioned about Douglas apply also in Javi's situation. So we have to sit down and talk with his people and himself and everybody else and talk about what that looks like. But I think, again, I'm going to go back on a global strategy point of view here, which is that our top players, which are typically your DPs, they have to be available on the field, performing. You can put any name in that you want. It doesn't matter whether they're here or not here or anywhere else. We have to, as a club, do the best that we can to try to ensure that durability is there and then there's things you can't guarantee, but the durability is there, and that the quality and the level is there. So certainly when Javi was healthy, and last year he had a hell of a year this year trying to get healthy and stay healthy, and that was unfortunate. Obviously, last year he had an excellent season and scored a ton of goals. So these are things that we process, and we have to sit down and communicate and talk with his people.
But along the back line, that's an area where you rarely got a consistent back line.
Yeah.
The area of the field where you need the best
For sure.
chemistry. You've got people who will be coming back healthier if they're coming back. You've got Maya returning. You've got the elements of what could be a very good back line, but are you also looking outside? Does this team need so much money in this league to spend on attackers that right now the attacking players are overwhelming defenses often?
Yeah.
Is building a defense, and I'm going to look back, it's a different era, and the game's different here than it was when you were a rookie and in your first few years. that Galaxy backline that first year, those first couple of years, a backline of that quality is something that this team, it seems, could use.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the shout out from my former playing days. But yeah, I think, again, I do. I think when you look at our defending stats this season, we were abysmal in many ways. And there are some of them, there are a lot of reasons that we can talk about as to why that happened, but that can't happen. You can't concede goals in that way. We have to get stronger. Part of that getting stronger is getting quality and also consistency in our back line. You know, and even this at the beginning of the season, we had a little bit of consistency. We had a lot of youth back there. It was kind of Martin and 3 young guys, and obviously Lucas had a very solid season as one of the young guys. He had come into our league having already played 60 or 70 sort of first team games, I think, if I recall correctly, and so he had laid down a decent number of sort of those first team games and had some experience, and I think just that showed that he had that consistency. He's in a tough situation obviously now because he's with us on loan and then has such a difficult injury, and we're trying to review all of our different options as it relates to his situation. And then you had Julian, who we were able to get on a youth fund, who we think has a lot of upside, but he's still growing and learning and developing. And then Jalen, who was another one of our young ones, was starting a lot of games early, who has a ton of upside and showed his quality, but then it becomes durability over the course of a 34-game season. So I think we got some young guys that gained some experience this year, but we've got to make sure that we have more continuity, that we make more mature decisions over the course of the game, and that collectively, when I say that, it's from front to back, that we are both more conscientious about the defending, even when we have the ball, and our exposures, but also just the collective defending, so that we can try to make the reads and the work of the back line a little bit clearer. But then there's also a piece there that there's a certain number of like just individual moments that we have to clean up, that where our back line players have to be more consistent, and mistakes happen, but mistakes can't happen as often as they were happening. But I also still put it back, collectively we have to front to back be a little bit better over the course of the season. And again, continuity is important. So I think, in short, to your question, I think we had some guys get some experience that I think will move to a little bit another level this year, next year, hopefully. We are going to be consistently reviewing our options to continue to improve our back line and look at that for sure. You mentioned it inside of our league. There's just so much power and money that's going now into the attacking side of the game for many teams that you have to have stability, and you maybe aren't pouring as much money into the defending side, but you have stability, and one of the important things is when you push money into that attacking side, those guys got to help the back line defend too. Like, they can't just play in one way, so that's part of the collective piece.
I wanted to ask you also about balance. You want to possess the ball, you want to attack, you want to be proactive on the attack. Teams know that. You often face very packed attacking thirds, so
sure.
You kind of unlock that at the same time. And this season's an outlier because of the injuries, because of the lack of consistency in lineups and so forth,
Yep.
because of the lack of chemistry that breeds. But it leaves you exposed in your defensive third a lot of the time. Not their fault that they're getting exposed, but they are.
No.
In terms of balancing the way you want to play with the needs at the back,
Sure.
Is that something that needs to evolve?
Yeah, a little bit. That's something that we talked about a little bit at the beginning of, or at some point during the season. One of those things is that when we transition and we recover balls and the defending to attacking transition, we have to have a vertical threat to be able to also be effective in the attacking transition. Because if you do that and you can set up your attacks, not always from, I think we were number 2 or 3 in the league in terms of shots created from basically the build-out position, which is starting from your goalkeeper, playing it up the field and going. We were very, very high in that. I don't necessarily want to be that high in that. I think some of that is that you are winning balls too low, that you are transitioning to just secure the ball and not transitioning to attack. That's one of the elements that we want to certainly improve upon. I would like us to get into the attacking half of the field quicker in the transition, so it's not always in a build-out fashion, and I think with a little bit more dynamic work ahead of the ball, being a little bit better about how we defend and recover the ball, in a more less where we're just dropping down and getting underneath the ball, and more where we can be proactive about recovering the ball, sort of, for lack of better terminology, I don't like these, but on the front foot in a way, that you can play forward and you can now attack in that attacking transition phase. And then when you're in that phase, if that opportunity to finish the attack isn't on, then you can set up and keep possession, and now you're a little bit more in the attacking half of the field. But I think often, and we ran into this a bit, when you're building attacks from deep, you're opening up yourself really early and really low, close to your goal. And when things break down, you become a little bit more vulnerable in those situations. Or you're trying to open your field team up and go all the way the length of the field sometimes, and if you lose balls in the midfield area, you can become vulnerable. So that's one of the things I do believe, and I think if we become a little more dynamic at the top, that can help us. It gives us a little bit more of a threat in the attacking transition. I think if we become more solid in our continuity, and I think shifting a little bit of how we defend, not just the look of how we defend, but how we defend can hopefully help us to be less in that build-out phase and a little bit more where we are not so opened up in those key areas of the field.
In terms of what you learned this year, how big of a learning curve was there going through this? In what ways did it compare maybe to 2018?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's sometimes you learn a lot of things that you don't really want to learn, but you learn them anyway. For me, the challenge was trying to constantly, if you have coaching is a lot easier when you have your starting group and the guy you propose that are going to play the majority of the minutes available to you a lot. Then you don't have to try to be creative. You don't have to try to figure out how new relationships are going to work on the field, how that's going to impact you, or how maybe you want to defend lower versus higher. You're trying to adapt to who's available to you sometimes, and that's not the fault of the players, and that's me trying to get the best out of our group, and sometimes I didn't get that right, and sometimes I got it a little more right. I think there were times where, I think we were pretty high in the league in terms of getting points from losing positions. That can say two things. That can mean that we were losing a lot and we were able to come back, or two, it could be that we'd made good adjustments inside of seeing what was happening and we were able to do. So sometimes, by having to adapt and not always having the availability of guys you would love to have, we put out a plan at the beginning that didn't always go well, but then once we kind of saw what was going on, I think we were able to make some adjustments that gave us some ability to get back and get a draw, to get a win, or do something. So for me, things are, consistency, as much as possible, trying to be consistent and excellent at what it is that we want to do. I felt like this year we were trying to adapt a few different things here or there. We were trying to manufacture goals at the beginning of the season, and we were trying to prevent goals at the end of the season because we were leaking. And so it was, sometimes we were trying to stay as consistent as possible, but trying to put nuance in there to try to protect some of the things that we felt like maybe we were leaking or having trouble with along the way. So I think that was a big thing for us. Second is, one thing, I'm just being candid with I was working through this season is, wanting to come in and really help this group be able to take pressure. And because I think when you come to the Galaxy, and the expectation at the Galaxy is that you're competing and winning championships, that there is pressure and there is an expectation of that when you show up here. Our fans expect it. Our history expects it, and I think many of us and many of the guys, they're winners and they expect it. So trying to find the balance this season of leaning into the guys for accountability, which then put a little bit of pressure on them inside of us having a hard time maybe getting results early in the season, having a hard time scoring goals. Some of that's because we were a little bit light. When to put pressure on the group and when to lean on them and really push that accountability, and when to remove some of that because and make the environment not so stressful and a little bit more just progress oriented, development oriented. We needed players to get better and to perform at their highest level. That for me was an interesting thought process that I was going through all during the season, of when to lean on the group and when to kind of pull that stress out of the group and when to go. And it was, I racked my brain on that one a lot during the course of the season while I was trying to adapt and figure out the right solutions within the group. And the players were great. They were behind it and they were a part of the solutions always. It was never anything there, and I really enjoyed working with the group. It was just a lot of variables that we were all trying to work through together, and I think on some level we did a good job, on some level we didn't do good enough job, that's for sure.
Is the foundation here to compete for a championship next year?
Possibly. We have to get some things right. We have to stay healthy. We have to get some things right, and ultimately we'll have to execute those things. But the decisions that we will make between now and the starting of the season, I think that getting guys in early in preseason, so whoever is new, whoever is a new player, has the most time and the best possible scenario to integrate into the group. We've got to get off to a solid start. I think as you're integrating potentially some new players, we've got to get off to a solid start and then keep improving through the course of the season. And if we do that, I don't know if I would tell you today that I think we are a supporters field winning team, because I think you have to really know your pieces, all of your pieces, and be ready for that. You never know. We'll see how it goes. But I think if we put together a really solid squad, stay healthy, and continue to grow through the course of the season, I believe 100% that we could be capable of winning a championship. We saw a little bit of that 2 years ago. In the midseason, we added Riqui and those guys, and we had a team with enough quality to compete for a championship. We just didn't get it done. We didn't execute. So I'd like to think so. I believe it can happen that fast.
Fair to say that in terms of what you're going to go after during the window, that's to come. You guys still have analysis to do and decisions to make.
For sure.
You really start dwelling on that.
Yeah. I mean, what we work on is we're pretty clear about how we feel we need to make the team better, what the profiles, what the qualities are of both the players that we have and the players we need, and all of that kind of stuff. And then it's going down, and as always, you've got to figure out where everybody's at, who is already here and who's going to be staying, and then figure out how work through getting the deals done to get the guys and the profiles that you believe can help take the team to another level, and the personalities and all those kinds of things. So that work will, it's ongoing. It's one of the good things I think now from when I first arrived, and that's not to say anything about anybody when I first arrived. We're far more proactive in this process than I felt like when we arrived, and part of that too, in fairness, was coming out of COVID. It wasn't maybe quite as easy to be as proactive as maybe we can be now, but those processes are in place, and I feel like whoever those players are, at whatever level those players are, getting those things done sooner rather than later would be beneficial.
Lastly, for me, in the conversations with players, both with Raw on Saturday and then today, there's been a lot of discussion on the protests and how that impacted the team, not having the fans there, and what you lose by not having that in your home games. But what I'm wondering more so is what happened with Chris and Chris's departure. In what ways did that, rather than the protests that
Sure.
went along with it, but just the upending of things in the front office, in what ways did that impact the club and impact the team?
Yeah, I think Chris's role was to try to tie a lot of things together in the club. As a president, you're trying to tie the business side, the technical side. You're trying to tie people together. So for me, when Chris was around, I communicated a lot with Chris to give him our plans. He would always ask a lot of questions. As a former player, he was always into like knowing what's going on. He wasn't really in a position where he was trying to make decisions. He was always asking questions and giving information on terms of how the league was going to process this or that, or how to best navigate, certain things that might be, that could help us when we were trying to sign players, or what mechanisms would make sense in certain things. And he was involved, always and curious about the development of the academy and how we were developing the scouting department and our analytics department and tying all these things together. He was super intrigued about all of those ideas. But it was those of us working day to day who were driving the development of all those sides. He would come down on daily and just kind of want to know about stuff. And so with Chris not here, we obviously don't have as many of those types of discussions. The way we're structured now is slightly different. But and the other thing that Chris gave us was the insight to sort of the leagues. Our league is always evolving, and there's these product strategy meetings and all that kinds of stuff. And Chris was, I think, the only president, non-owner, who was sitting on the product strategy. And so you had some level of insight as to what conversations were going on, what direction was being considered about things. You could try to stay a little bit proactive on that side of things. To my knowledge, we're not represented at the moment in that, other than Dan is in certain situations, certain meetings, and certain things, but not maybe as on the day-to-day or whatever that was as before. So we're grinding with the league to try to find out what discussions are happening, what's going on, what may be the trends to next year if things are changing. Certainly with Messi coming the way Miami's going, that has if nothing else, put a little bit of pressure or insight on maybe what the next steps for the league might be in terms of growth and ideas. We want to know what those things are so that we can try to prepare and be on the front foot if something is going to evolve. It's those things. So we're just trying to gather and work to gather as much information as possible. Obviously, Chris's involvement on the business side is for those guys to say. Chris was a friend, but also I think somebody who I could just bounce things off of. So, with him not around, I use Tom and the rest of us. We have regular meetings with different groups, right? Whether it's our technical group, our ELT, which is kind of our direction group and for the club. And so we have meetings still and very formal. So it's not totally different in the grand scheme of things. Maybe just the link, the person who's always downstairs, upstairs, who's kind of there is not as consistent as in the past, which is okay. It's just where we are. Yeah, it's understandable for sure.
Next, we'll go to Zoom questions. We'll go ahead and start with Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Hey, Josh.
I wanted to sort of go back. You've missed the playoffs the last 2 of the 3 years. I know we've talked about those scenarios in the past, but what makes you think that you're still the best guy for this job?
Because if you look at history as a coach, also I have a ton of consistency of not only just getting to the playoffs, but getting to the finals, winning a championship. I know what it takes to win in this league. I think if you look at any club and other coaches who also are in this league and have won championships, they have seasons that are these outlier seasons where they have injuries, they have issues, they have challenges. Many teams prior to the introduction of the Leagues Cup, which was very new this year, you would see a lot of teams who played in Champions League who would have very difficult seasons, injury issues, very good coaches who also struggled when they went through these types of challenges. I don't think these challenges define who you are as a coach or your ability to be successful. They define the challenges of this particular season, and that we were not able to get on the right side of these particular challenges for many reasons. But doesn't take away sort of my knowledge and vision of the game and my ability to lead these players. Not once did you hear a player turn around and say, that we weren't moving in the right direction or that things were not good. Every one of them was behind it and believed in the process, believed in what we were trying to do. That's the first most important thing. After that, they realized that it was a challenging year for circumstances, many of which were beyond our control. And so that's why I believe it. I know I work my ass off. I'm here every minute, and I care about this club, which doesn't win games, but it certainly is what I do on a daily basis that matters to our group. They see that I work my ass off, so I lead in that capacity. And they know we have a good way of working on the field as well in terms of training and helping players to continue to improve, but giving us a clear vision moving forward. So for many reasons, I think those are the reasons why, and I do believe that we will get there. You saw progress over year one and year two, and at the end of year two, I think there was a lot of belief in the capacity that this club and this team could win and move in the right direction. And then you have a year like this year that I said to you before was a bit of a unicorn in terms of all the different challenges that were posed in front of it. So now we got to get on the right side of it. We got to learn from what happened this year. I will take you back to 2018 at Toronto when we had a similar type of season. And if you recall, in 2019, the season ended with Toronto playing Seattle in the MLS Cup final. So I also have a history of managing through these situations and putting club on the right side of it in the very next season.
And you also have 17 players, I think, that either have contract up or contract options, right? So there's a lot of flexibility there. Do you think that you're going to be looking at 17 new players, or do you really feel like there is a core here and you expect maybe half or a majority of those players to be back?
I don't think we'll be looking at 17 new players. I don't know off the top of my head what that number will be. I do think we have a good core group. Again, when healthy, for the last half of the season, you didn't see one of the best midfields, in my opinion, in the league, even together on the field. So that was it. Plus, we continue to add depth and strength to our midfield. Again, we've got to continue to address positions where we feel like we have some decisions to make. But I think we have a core group that is here, but I think we need to be very pointed and very calculated about how we improve this team. But I think the core is here. We just didn't get to see them. As I said when I started this thing off, a lot of people forget how good this team actually could be just because they haven't seen them together in so long. And so it's easy to question at the end of a season where we are. But if we had a pretty interesting group of players who came out on the field on the last day who were all in their street clothes and none of which were in their playing gear. And so when you tie that together, you realize that there is definitely something here that we can build on, but there's definitely some areas that we need to consider how we're going to make the right steps forward.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Next we'll go to Charlie Bohm.
Hi, Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you good.
Always appreciate your insight, especially the detailed insight you can provide. I know you've spoken about Javier a little bit. I just wanted to ask a little bit more because there's such a confluence of different factors here with his character, his injury, his age. I know there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm curious what the process is like for how you make the decisions and he makes the decisions. Maybe if you could just share, what unknowns are you can't predict and what maybe you just aren't able to speak about right now.
Yeah, I think, a lot of these are just but just processing and analyzing short-term, long-term direction of our group and how we can be successful next year, but also how we can continue to be successful for years to come. That is, that's part of it. Javi, obviously, he has shown his qualities as a player, as a leader. We all know Javi very well, and we appreciate Javi. And it's just kind of like it's a combination of where he's at, where we're at, and thinking both short and long-term success. We all know that in this league, the DP positions are such coveted positions. You don't get many of them, and so it's when you make these types of decisions, they have to be very thoroughly thought through, and wise decisions have to be made, and also it's working, and I believe always working, with the players, but ultimately it's our responsibility as a club and my responsibility to make the decisions that are going to be best for the club. But it's a tough one because it's it's a key one. It's a key one. After having a season like this, you don't have space, and so you have to make really, really good decisions right now. And so we're just trying to analyze every aspect of that decision. From continuity to what does new look like. You don't know exactly, and so it's a lot of things you have to consider when going through these steps.
Has he expressed to you his intention to come back and overcome the injury and continue his career?
My early discussions with him and the work he has put in, from what I hear from doctors and what I've heard from him and whatnot, is he would love to play. He would love to be in LA. I think all of those things are pretty consistent. He's trying to do the work. He's never been a guy since I've been around who's been short of putting in the work, and so. That I think he is pretty clear on what he would like to do in the grand scheme of things. So again, figuring all of this out is a challenge.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Alex Ruiz.
Hey, Greg. Of all the contracts that are going to be up, you have a couple loans. Novak Mitrovic, do you feel like you got a big enough sample size to assess him in the first team? And with Caligari, how much does his injury affect your guys' decision to bring him back?
With Novak first, our context with Novak is a lot through the course of the season where we really got to saw him, maybe not in a ton of games. I think he ended up with 4 first-team games. In the context that we had with him through the season. I think he's a goalkeeper with high potential. By the time he comes on at the end of the season, we're not a very stable group, and so it's hard to take 2 games at the end of the year and assess the keeper and say those were his opportunity. I think he showed us through the course of a season, both with his work in the training ground and I thought he had 2 good games in Leagues Cup, even though we didn't win those games. I thought he looked solid. I think his work rate, the things like that, he shows that he's worthy. We have to make that decision now and decide our directions with our goalkeeper crew. But I think he has showed me, in my opinion, and our goalkeeper crew and staff that he has high potential. And at some point there has to be a leaping off point for him where he starts to gain that experience to go with his potential and with his quality so that he can take more steps forward. And so we have to decide ultimately if that's with us or if that's not going to be with us. But I do think that he is a young man who has very, very high ceiling when it comes to the goalkeeping aspects of the game and potential. As far as Lucas, really challenging situation with Lucas, obviously, because he was a warrior for us this season, and he would have been up there in terms of number 1, number 2, number 3 in minutes played for sure up until he was injured. He was always out there, and I think he showed his durability until he couldn't do it anymore, and that's an unfortunate thing. And the issue is he's on loan. We have to explore all of the different possibilities as it relates to his loan and our working with his club and him to see if there's something that fits together and makes sense. He probably, nowadays with ACLs, you're talking probably a year for the player to come back really safe and to likely not have I think a year is kind of the over-under for not having some sort of significant injury on the other side. You decrease your percentages by a lot. So it's trying to figure out what this looks like to support him and see if it works with him while still moving forward with our season and our team and trying to figure out what that looks like. It's a complicated one because he certainly and the time here earned his stripes when he was here.
Yeah, early in the season, the fan boycott was a big thing going around here. I mean, we were asking you about it. You had interactions with fans at one point after a game. I just want to know, just how much did that affect you, knowing that cloud is also hanging around while you guys are not getting results early in the season?
Yeah, this is something I just really am over talking about too much. What I would say to it is when players play home games and they come to the stadium, they play to perform in front of their fans, to drive, to draw that energy, to use that energy. We have a banner, if you will. I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's right outside of our locker room. When they walk out of the locker room, it says they'll always remember how you make them feel. And we're specifically talking about our fans. So going out and performing and sharing the energy, both of what we bring on the field with what comes out of the stands and from our fans, is a huge part of what makes home field advantage home field advantage. It's a huge part of what makes playing the home game so exciting and invigorating for players. And to be honest, we didn't have that at the beginning of the season in the way that we would normally have that. We still had a wonderful group of fans who were there to support us, but the energy was different. And so it just is what it is, and it was what it was. But that's what professional players look forward to when they talk about playing at home. It's the shared energy and the playoff of the fans, the entertainment, all those kinds of things. What I would say is, what I said before is, June 1, somewhere around there, the fan protests somewhat sort of vaguely kind of ended, and people started to come back to the stands, and then did come back, and we lost one home game from June 1 till the end of the season. It was the last game of the season. So I don't know, you can count that for what it is in terms of points missed or points lost and points whatever, because I don't really know what the answer is to that, quite honestly. What I know is the energy and the environment is crucial for the guys. They love that. They look forward to that. They have voiced to me that they missed that, and that was disappointing for them. And that's all we've talked about from that side of things. At the end of the day, that's just the realities of the home environment. You want it, and the guys missed it, and they voiced that to me in many ways.
But you didn't feel affected too much by it?
Of course. Look, I coach a team who I also play off of their energy and make decisions based off of their energy and their performance, and I also want to be in the stands when it's packed and it's loud and it's noisy. Take the Rose Bowl as a wonderful example of that type of environment at the highest of level and numbers, and you saw an incredible performance from our guys on that day. So, and I take from that, I think it's amazing because it also generally encourages / forces our players to play at their highest level in many ways, which makes my job a little bit different and or sometimes easier when the energy is right and the guys have the right energy, and all of that is coming together. Then in some ways it both is invigorating for me as a coach and former player and someone who does this also and cares about this club deeply. Those things are important to me as well. I care about the environment, and I want our fans to be happy with our team, and I want our team to be happy with our fans, because then you have the right relationship to try to build successful continuity. Again, it's not just the continuity of our players on the field, but it's the continuity of our whole relationship between fans, players, club, direction, all those things. If we're all on the same page, we become a stronger unit. That's what us against them is supposed to be, really. It's supposed to be us, the LA Galaxy family, which is everyone who has a relationship with the Galaxy against everyone who doesn't have a relationship with the Galaxy, right? And there was a little bit of a gap in there, I think, at times this year.
Thanks, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Next, we'll go to Rob. Oh, no, we'll go to Rob. We'll finish Zoom, and then we'll go to in-person. Rob Jalen.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for your time. You spoke the other day about many people not seeing what happens behind the curtain, and you speaking about a lot of things kind of lining up behind the scenes with analytics, with scouting and stuff like that. For you, what is the last piece of that puzzle that needs to fall into place for the Galaxy to return back to that elite level? Or is that piece in place and now you guys just need to kind of solidify things?
Yeah, I think we are. We're pretty well connected on that side. I mean, we're always pushing every day. If you want to take our different departments on the analytics side, where we have some really, really good information coming in, and we are mining that information in different aspects of our game, whether it's our technical performance in the game, our physical performance in the game, our guys' individual performances. We have a lot of good information that we're using and that we're mining. we're continuing to make that better. We're continuing to look in this offseason for staffing that can really help us read that information in better ways. That's one of the growths that we want to make on the technical side, is to continue to build our analytics side. We've done an incredible amount of work, and a lot of credit goes to the guys on our sports science staff. Also, Sam Green, who is my video analysis. I mean, if anyone could actually see the amount of building that they have done and what they have created inside of our club, to we have a whole app, website, everything that reads everything and analyzes it in a way and puts it out there for our use and availability. We're going to continue to grow and get better at that stuff. Getting somebody in the house that can really be a great reader of that information, because data is only as good as what you kind of read from it. We can get better on that side. Scouting has definitely gotten more proactive and gotten better. We have ground scouts. We have Mikey helping to lead them, Jovan getting on the ground and meeting with people. We have Will, who's in there also meeting with people, pushing on different ways. Our scouting is continuing to get better and more proactive. Where we were a year and a half ago and 2 years ago was very reactive off of recommendations, and now we're very proactive in identifying through both statistical measures as well as subjective watching. We're looking and seeing profiles who people aren't necessarily telling us about. We're finding them, and we're going in proactively having those conversations, and so we're much further advanced on that side of things. There's a lot of that coming together. So what has to happen next is that we have to make sure that all of that work goes into building the best team, keeping that team healthy, keeping that team on the field, and performing at the highest level. So this year, again, was, in my opinion, a bit of an anomaly when it comes to the injury side of things and the types of injuries that we had. This year, we had some new challenges, which was and how sports science will work and different things will work, and how we're going to manage the new type of season that we're in, which is Leagues Cup in the middle, and team league games being pushed together tighter at the beginning of the season. We've got to do a good job of analyzing and utilizing all that information and doing it. So what now is what's in front of the curtain has to be more successful. Part of that is, again, putting together the best team and then putting the best team on the field and getting results. So now we have to, it's all what you guys see now, not necessarily what we do behind the scenes, but what everyone, the fan and the media and everyone else sees, needs to now take that step that proves the work that we've been putting on is the right work and can be successful.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, back here, Scott, Damien, do you guys have any follow-ups?
Go, Damien.
Yeah, Greg, with the new structure of the front office, everybody reports to Dan. How involved is he in the day-to-day, week-to-week process? And then you personally, you're coming in with 1 year left in your contract? Or you
Correct.
Be back next year?
Am I sure I'll be back next year?
Will you surely be back next year?
Yes, that's my expectation. Ultimately, I don't hire or fire myself, so someone else has to determine that. But yes, my anticipation and expectation and my conversations are yes. So, and we're very bullish. When I say we, in my conversation with Dan and everyone around, we're very bullish about the direction of the club. We're all very aware of the challenges that existed, and also the fact that we expect and need to be more successful than we were this year, but we understand the reality of the challenges, which is there. But the expectation is that we're going to continue to be bullish, to keep pushing forward, to keep building this team, and the expectation is next year that we won't encounter the types of things we encountered this year, and the expectation is of a season of success. And so, how involved is Dan on the day-to-day? Probably not super involved on the day-to-day. I mean, he's obviously running a huge, he's a CEO of AEG. He's got a lot going on, so he's not super involved in the day-to-day. But he's in the know. He knows what we're doing. He understands our plans. We probably connect, every once a week. If not, if it's a super busy week, we have 3 games. It might be every other week. But in general, we connect very frequently. He's aware of any thoughts, plans, and also the developments that are going on within the day-to-day, but also the thoughts that are going on with where the future and the direction of things lies. So he's aware. He's very aware, and that's the most important thing, and that he is helping to guide us in the things that we need clarity on, and giving us that direction.
You've had a long partnership with Robin Fraser, one of your closest friends, someone who you speak soccer with
Sure.
on a regular basis. He, of course, wants to be a head coach. If he is not a head coach, is there any chance that we might see him on your staff next year?
I've learned in this business to never say never. I know he's focused, as he should be, on the opportunities that will exist from a head coaching position. I also don't want to speak for him, but I am pretty confident that he's going to be pretty selective about that process now. Yeah, I think I talk to him, frequently, so he's certainly going to be in the running. So of these opportunities that are out there, and we'll see. And then I don't know what'll come beyond that, but we're always in conversation, so we'll see where it goes.
And lastly, you're of a certain age. We all are getting older.
Yes.
As one a dozen years older than you, right? I have noticed that you've grayed a little bit this year. How much of that is going through something like this?
I don't know, because I don't know if I know physiologically how these things all equate. But this season was a challenge. It was a special challenge, and it was. I said it the other night. It was emotional. It was stressful. It was. I say that for everybody around, because we all envision, and there's few seasons that I've had that I would define as not successful, and in many years, and this one you have to it was not successful, but you have to redefine success and understand why. I think that's always the question that is answered on the field, off the field, is why. Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why did this happen? And how do we get better? How do we improve? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? And in seasons like this, there's an endless amount of asking yourself why, and trying to find those solutions and resolve certain situations, improve things. And Scott, most people here will tell you what my work rate is like here, and in a normal season, and in a season that was like this, I couldn't turn it off ever. There was always something I felt like that I was trying to focus on, fix, correct, both of myself, and also just of what we were going through, because I believe ultimately I'm responsible for those things. And so for me, this was certainly a stressful season, and so maybe some gray, if that's how it works, or if I'm just getting older, I'm just getting older. But if that has anything to do with gray, then certainly some of that can be a product of a season with lots of challenges.
So you see presidents come in with a certain color of hair by the end of their first term.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, we'll see. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, thanks for your time.
All right, thanks everyone.
Riqui, first of all, can we get your thoughts on the season itself? A lot of injuries around here. You sort of got injured for the end of the season. First of all, what are your thoughts on how this whole season just transpired?
Sí, creo que ha sido una temporada muy difícil. Creo que hemos tenido lesiones pues muy importantes, que creo que también han tocado mucho el grupo personalmente, y sobre todo pues que el último tramo también pues yo no he podido estar ahí para los partidos tan importantes que teníamos para entrar en playoff, y la verdad que ha sido una temporada pues con muchos baches, y esto pues nos han pues puesto las cosas muy difíciles para poder hacer una buena temporada.
I think it was a difficult season. We had big injuries that affected the group, and also, the last part of the season, I was injured as well, wasn't able to play, and, helped the team in that final playoff push, and of course that affected our playoff hopes, but, it's been a rough season in general, and that's been really tough.
what did you learn as your first full season in the league? What did you learn? Did you learn anything more about, I guess, the league itself, style of play, I guess all the way down to the referees? Did you learn anything different as your first full season?
Bueno, creo que con las derrotas siempre se aprende más y este año pues hemos tenido bastantes derrotas. También te digo que creo que es un año para hacer cuenta y borrón. Creo que con tantas lesiones y todo lo que ha pasado también con los fans y con el presidente también, pues creo que ha sido muy difícil para nosotros. Tema pues de árbitros, creo que vamos mejorando año a año. Sí que es verdad que tenemos que tener cuidado con muchas entradas que por mí pues me he perdido 5 partidos muy importantes por una entrada que creo que la liga tiene que ser mucho más contundente y más en un minuto 2 de un partido. Pero la verdad que espero que la liga haga todo lo que tiene en sus manos para mejorar, porque creo que es una liga de mucho futuro y que necesitamos los mejores árbitros en esta liga.
You said you were talk slow.
Sorry. When we talk about referees, I go really fast.
You know, with losses, you learn more, and I think this year we had a lot of losses, so a lot of learning lessons, and, you know, it's a year to just press delete and start fresh. You know, we had a lot of injuries, the fan boycott, you know, our president, all that, so, and then also, like, just on the ref front, you know, we're getting better, but, you know, we have to be careful with some of, like, those fouls that we've been called on. You know, I didn't play 5 games because of this reason, and, you know, I hope the league just can continue growing in this aspect, and it's a league with, you know, a bright and big future and a lot of future, and we just need better refs in this league.
Are you happy here? You like it in? You like it within this team? Is this a team that you can see yourself playing with for a number of seasons, or I mean, your career is obviously going to take you other places.
For sure, I'm happy. Estoy muy feliz aquí, ya siempre lo he dicho. LA creo que me trató súper bien cuando vine. Los fans me han tratado como uno más de esta gran familia. Sigo diciendo que es el Galaxy el equipo más grande de la MLS y lo seguirá siendo, sobre todo por el futuro que tiene y también el pasado que tiene. Somos el equipo con más campeonatos. Es verdad que este año pues ha sido un año muy difícil para todos, pero ya estamos trabajando desde el minuto 1, que es hoy, con el míster, pues con Jovan, con toda la directiva, para el año que viene tener un equipo muy competitivo y que podamos luchar no para el último puesto de playoff, sino para estar en el top 3 de mejores equipos de la liga.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I've always been happy, and I've always said it. LA has treated me so well, and the fans have treated me as one more of this big family that we are. And I've always said the Galaxy is the biggest team in MLS and will continue to be, just because of, you know, the team's past and the future. What's ahead is important, and we are a team, you know, with the most MLS Cups. It's true, it's been a difficult year for all, but, you know, we're already working since today for, you know, what's ahead with Greg and Jovan and the whole front office, you know, to have a competitive team and be on the top again and be one of the top 3 teams in the league.
You feel like the foundation is here to be competing for a championship as soon as next season?
Sí, la verdad que sí. Creo que el año que viene para mí también y para mucha gente que está en el club es muy importante. Creo que el año que viene pues ya no tendremos excusas. Este año pues el tema de las lesiones, el tema de como he dicho antes, del presidente, de los fans, pues creo que tenemos que empezar desde el principio todos juntos, más unidos que nunca, porque creo que este año es un contón y cuenta nueva. Tenemos que empezar desde el principio, hacer un buen equipo y sobre todo ir para ganar títulos.
Yes, I think so. I think next year for me and for many at the club, it's very important. You know, there's no excuses next year. This year it was injuries and the boycott and what happened to our president. And, you know, next year we just have to start united and together, and we need to start fresh, and so we can be a good team and have that mentality to win cups.
And your thoughts on Greg? How would you describe him as a manager? What are the things that you most admire about him?
Bueno, el míster, pues yo siempre lo he dicho, tengo confianza plena con él. Yo estoy aquí gracias a él y creo que es un entrenador que puede dar mucho al Galaxy. La verdad que a mí me ayuda muchísimo, temas personales fuera del campo, que también es muy importante. Creo que es una persona pues muy noble y sobre todo con ese punto de psicólogo que hay muchos entrenadores que no tienen. Creo que él es una fantástica persona y sobre todo un gran entrenador y que creo que nos puede dar mucho. Creo que todos dentro del Galaxy confiamos en él, confiamos en que pueda hacer un buen equipo el año que viene y yo siempre estaré detrás de él apoyándolo.
Greg, I've always said, I have full confidence with him. I'm here because of him and thanks to him. And, he's been a coach that can give the Galaxy a lot. And he's helped me a lot personally, even with things, off the field as well. He's a great guy, a nice guy. He also has that psychological aspect, maybe that some coaches don't have. And he's just an amazing person, a great coach, in my opinion, who can give us a lot. And, all of us here at the Galaxy, we trust him. And, we know he's setting up a good team for next year. And, he has my support 100%. All right, we'll go to questions from Zoom. Alex Reese, go ahead.
Y gracias por tu tiempo. Te quería preguntar, la próxima temporada, los metas del equipo, si puedes explicar de qué usted quiere hacer la próxima temporada y también todo el equipo.
Si yo quiero estar.
No, las metas personal de usted.
Vale, ok. Bueno, como dije desde que vine aquí al Galaxy, pues el Galaxy siempre ha sido un equipo ganador, siempre ha estado en el top de los mejores equipos de la liga y espero que pueda seguir siendo así. Este año a lo mejor ha sido un año pues un poco diferente por muchos aspectos como hemos comentado antes, pero como te he dicho, a mí me gusta ganar, soy un competidor nato, me cuesta mucho perder y no sé perder. Y este año pues ha sido un año muy difícil para mí, que pues a veces también me he planteado muchas cosas, pero creo que estamos en una buena línea y que creo que el año que viene podemos hacerlo muy bien.
Gracias, Riqui.
De nada.
The questions on his time here and, his goals personally and for the team next season. And Ricky's answer, like I've said, since I came here at the Galaxy, the Galaxy has always been a winning team and, a team that's been at the top. And this year was difficult for reasons we've talked about. And like I said, I like to win. I'm a competitor, a natural competitor, and I hate losing. I don't know how to lose. And I have, a lot of goals in mind for next year, and I think we'll be great next season. One last one from Rob Jalen. Go ahead, Rob.
Hola Riqui, muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Al comienzo del año has dicho que quieres tener una temporada de MVP. ¿Cómo crees que desarrolló tu temporada? Y un poquito aparte de eso, el míster ha dicho el otro día que siempre no se ve lo que pasa detrás de la cortina en un club, y él piensa que las fundaciones del club están ahí, bien sea en el scouting, la analítica, para tener un futuro con éxito en este club. ¿Cómo ves eso y qué crees que le falta al club para llegar al próximo nivel? Gracias, Riqui.
¿Cuál era la primera pregunta? Perdona.
En que a principios de año dijiste que querías tener una temporada de MVP. Sí. ¿Y cómo crees que te fue en la temporada?
Sí, bueno, yo ya dije desde el principio, siempre me gusta pues intentar ser el mejor con lo que hago, jugando a fútbol también, y la verdad pues que siempre intento hacerlo mejor. Sí que es verdad que ha sido un año muy difícil. Los primeros, a lo mejor 10, 15 partidos, pues para mí también fueron de adaptación, que es verdad que ya vine el año pasado los últimos 10 partidos, pero para mí pues empezar una liga desde el principio en la MLS, en LA, pues también necesitaba a lo mejor 10 partidos de adaptación. Y la verdad que el último, a lo mejor 4 o 5 meses me he sentido muy a gusto, marcando goles, haciendo asistencias, sintiéndome muy importante en el equipo, siendo el capitán también de un equipo tan grande. Y la verdad que ha sido una lástima perderme los últimos 4 partidos de liga, porque creo que pudiéramos haber hecho playoff y dar pues un último pues esfuerzo con este grupo, porque creo que teníamos mucho fútbol, pero que a lo mejor con las lesiones y muchas cosas pues no hemos podido llegar a un buen fin. Y el tema del Galaxy creo que está en un momento también muy complicado, pero que creo que se están haciendo muy bien las cosas. Creo que el año que viene pues es un año clave, como he dicho, que Greg y la directiva, Jovan, y creo que todo el mundo está trabajando en una misma línea, que eso es muy importante, y que tenemos claro a qué nos gusta jugar y cómo jugamos, que creo que eso es una de las filosofías más importantes del fútbol. Sorry, Vicky.
Almost there. All right, so the question was on, in the start of the year saying he wanted to have an MVP season and how he thinks the season went for him. And also on Coach saying that, a lot of times people don't see the behind the scenes at a club, from scouting to analytics and, his thoughts on that and what he thinks the club is missing to get to the next level. So Ricky's answers, I said since the start, I always said I wanted to be the best I could be with everything that I do. I always try to do my best. It's been a very difficult year. And, the first maybe 10, 15 games, it was maybe an adapting phase for me. I needed some games to adapt to the league again. And, maybe the last 4 or 5 months, I felt great. I was scoring goals. I was adding assists and, being captain in moments. So being captain for a big team and, it was great to have that. But it was very unfortunate to have missed the last 4 or 5 games because of that injury. And I think we could have made that playoff run had I not missed that. But, despite it all, given the injuries, that was very unfortunate. And then on the Galaxy, I think, it's been a complicated time for the club, but I think things are being done the right way. It's a key year for us. And I think everyone upstairs from Greg to Jovan is working together and we know how to play. We know how we like to play. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to the club's philosophy. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Ricky, in the final game, you're down 4-1. Why did you want to come back on in a game that was already decided?
Sí que es verdad que no estaba al 100%, a lo mejor estaba al 60, 70%, pero los fans me han dado mucho este año, me han ayudado muchísimo. También quería estar con el equipo, intentar ayudar lo máximo posible. Me sentí bastante bien, es verdad que con un poco de dolor y la verdad que lo hice más para los fans, para estar aquí juntos con ellos, que pudieran también disfrutar el último partido con el Galaxy y la verdad que estaba muy feliz de poder estar aquí, de volver al campo después de 5 partidos y la verdad que dar gracias a todo el mundo que vino al estadio, nos dio el apoyo porque ha sido un año muy difícil y creo que para ellos también.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't 100%. Maybe I was like 60, 70. But, fans gave me a lot this year. And I wanted to be with the team as well and help in every way that I could. And, I did it more than anything for the fans to be with them on that last match and, have them enjoy our last game this season. And, I was very happy to be back. And, I had a little bit discomfort. But I just want to thank all the fans and everyone who came to the stadium. And it was a difficult year for us, and I'm sure it was a difficult year for them as well.
A long off season, 3 months before camp opens again. How are you going to spend it? Are you going back to Barcelona, or what kind of things are you going to do? Because 3 months is more than.
Sí, bueno, primero de todo, pues también sentarme con el Galaxy para el tema también para próximo año. Yo creo que Ya le he dicho al Galaxy que yo me veo aquí muchos años y también pues hemos tenido que ver tema del contrato, a ver si podemos hacer algo más, porque creo que estoy muy feliz aquí y quiero estar muchos años aquí. Veo que es un equipo con mucho futuro. Y la verdad que sí, que son 3 meses de vacaciones. Me voy hoy a Barcelona para estar con mi familia, con todos mis hermanos, hermana. Y la verdad que estoy muy feliz. También un poco de desconexión va bien porque ha sido un año muy largo y la verdad que tengo muchas ganas de volver a Barcelona y volver en enero lo mejor posible.
First, before, taking off, I do want to talk with the Galaxy, sit down first with them and see for what's next for next year. It's a club, I see myself here for many years, but we have to see my contract and see what else we can do because I'm happy here and I want to be here. It's a team with a big future and, I want to be here. So, and then it's 3 months of vacation almost. So I leave today to Barcelona to be with my family and, it's also good to be disconnected a bit because it's been a very long year and, just looking forward to be back in January. Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Alrighty. Thanks for your time, Riqui.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Delgado, how would you assess your season? You had the injury for the first half, and the second half you sort of played, I guess, the way you wanted to play that second half. How would you grade or assess the way your whole season?
Douglas, ¿cómo ves que te fue en la temporada? Tuviste algunas lesiones al principio y algo mejor la segunda parte de la temporada. ¿Cómo calificarías tu año?
Es difícil cualificar un año cuando no tienes los objetivos concluidos con suceso, ¿no? Porque queríamos estar en los playoffs y no hicimos, pero hablando de mí, empecé un poco mal, no bien, y después empecé a agarrar mi ritmo y hacerlo un poco de mis cosas que estaba acostumbrado a hacer en mi carrera, y pienso que terminé muy bien. Y una lástima, como empecé hablando, que no fuimos a los playoffs, que era mi objetivo final. El primer año que estuve acá sí que conseguimos, pero no salimos campeones, entonces para mí concluyo mi año como un año bueno al final de la temporada.
It's difficult to grade a year like this, when you don't meet the objectives you had in the plan. So, we wanted to be in the playoffs and we didn't make it. Talking, my year starting okay, and then, I got a little bit more rhythm, and I think I started doing things that I've known and done in my career, throughout my career, and I think, just personally, I'm just sad we didn't make that playoff run.
When you look at the season with so many injuries, I think there were only 2 games when you, Riqui, and Chicha all played, were all available this season. How frustrating was that you guys didn't get together healthy-wise to put forth the full season?
Cuando ve la temporada, que una temporada llena de lesiones, que solo fue un par de partidos cuando ustedes, los jugadores franquicia, Riqui, Chicharito y tú, estuvieron juntos, solo un par de partidos, ¿cómo ves por ese aspecto?
Como dice, una lástima porque entrené con todos esos que estaban lesionados también, no aparte solo Riqui, Chicha, como Brugman también, hay un montón de jugadores que eran importantes para nosotros de coger del año. Y por eso a mí no me gusta poner las culpas en las lesiones o cosas así, porque tenía otros jugadores también importantes para intentar hacerlo lo mejor para nosotros, pero la lástima fue que nosotros nos jugamos demasiados minutos juntos y eso costó caro al de coger todo el año.
I think it was a shame that because, we did have a lot of injuries from important and key players like Riqui, Chicha, Brugman, Martin, and, others. But, I don't like to make excuses, especially with injuries, because we did have other important players on our roster that we could have, that we had to do our best. And, we didn't unfortunately, we didn't have enough minutes to play together, and I think that cost us in the end.
You've had a long career, you've played a lot of places. Have you ever seen a team that's had so many injuries and so many major injuries, the 4 knees, to really important players, to where, the team's been decimated in some ways, you lose your spine? Have you ever had anything like that before?
Has jugado una carrera muy larga en muchos clubes importantes. En tu carrera has visto una temporada con tantas lesiones de jugadores importantes, claves para el equipo, 4 rodillas, 2 jugadores claves para el club. ¿Te ha tocado eso en algún momento de tu carrera?
No, así no. Creo que nunca en mi vida había visto eso. Y costó demasiado caro porque eran jugadores, como vos habéis dicho, jugadores claves que eran importantes. Después Lucas también se lesionó y tuvimos un montón de jugadores y cambiamos mucho también. No creo que jugamos tantas partidas con los 11 iguales como se hace normal para agarrar ritmo, conocerse, y creo que cambiamos mucho por el tema de haber muchas lesiones y eso acabó tardando en nuestro juego, el modo que tenía que jugar, y como empecé, nunca vi eso en mi vida.
No, not like this. I've never seen it. I never experienced it in my career. It costs us a lot. It costs us everything. It was, key players that we lost, even players like Lucas Caligari, and, we changed a lot because of that. We didn't, play many games with the same 11, and we just had too many injuries, and that obviously affected the way we wanted to play. And yeah, I never experienced that in my career.
When we saw you, when you found yourself this year, we saw really, really good things from you. It seemed like it took a while for you to acclimate, to transition into this team and into this club. I think injuries did play a part in that. But what was most difficult about coming here and finding your game in MLS and with the Galaxy? And what was it that you felt propelled you to your best games?
Cuando encontraste tu juego este año, vimos muchas cosas buenas en la manera que te desarrollaste en la cancha. Parece que quizás te tomó un tiempo acostumbrarte a la liga, al club. ¿Qué fue lo que quizás sientes que más se te dificultó para poder acostumbrarte y jugar a tu máximo potencial? ¿Y qué crees que fue lo que te ayudó a adaptarte?
Yo creo que después de algunos par de años cambié demasiado club en poco tiempo. Salí de Alemania, de Italia a Alemania, de Alemania a Brasil, de Brasil acá, y todo eso en un periodo de 8 o 1 año solo de estando ahí. Y acá estuve acá 2 años, gané tiempo, conocí mis compañeros, conocí la liga, y por fin, después de totalmente adaptado, lo pude hacer lo mejor que estaba en mi manera de hacerlo. Entonces, creo que al principio adaptarse a una liga nueva, independiente de donde sea, es un poco difícil, y lo logré después de 1 año y poco. Entonces, salgo de eso feliz por terminar mi temporada jugando sin lesiones, marcando, asistiendo, intentando ayudar a mis compañeros.
I think after, some years in my recent, last part of what's been my career, I changed too many clubs in a short period of time. I went from Germany to Italy to Brazil to here. So, I was here 2 years, and it was about knowing the team and my teammates and the league. And, after completely adapting, I was able to give my best. I think at the start, just to adapt to a new league, it's always difficult. And I was able to do it in a year and some change. And, I'm happy because of, the end of the year for me here. It ended on a great note personally with, goals and assists, and just trying to help the team the best I could.
What's your situation stay? Is this a place you'd like to play?
¿Cuál es tu situación? ¿Estás en negociaciones con el club? ¿Es un lugar en el que te quisieras quedar, en el que quisieras seguir jugando?
Yo creo que pasaron 2 años, yo cuando me fueron ahí a Brasil a buscarme, yo agarré el proyecto y estuve siempre con cabeza de estar acá. Hizo, como estaba diciendo antes, hizo mi mejor, pero ahora tengo que parar un poco, pensar en todo lo que pasó y ver la situación mejor para mi familia, a mí también, y ver cómo prosigue todo.
I think that, the 2 years that I've been here, that already happened, and, even before that when the club went to go find me in Brazil, and, I had it in my head to be here when they presented the plan for me to be here, and I think I did my best, and now I have to just take some time and see everything that happened and see what's best for me and my family and see where that goes. Any other questions? We're going to go on Zoom with Alex Ruiz. Go ahead.
Hola
Alex.
Douglas, muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Si me puedes platicar un poco de tu tiempo con Greg, ¿cómo crees ha manejado toda esta temporada con las lesiones, con todas las cosas que han pasado con ustedes esta temporada?
Entendí muy poco la pregunta porque está muy lejos, Vicky.
Hablé un poco sobre esta temporada con tu tiempo con Greg. ¿Cómo crees que manejó el equipo con las lesiones y todo lo que se dio esta temporada?
Para él era un momento difícil porque él necesitaba contar con sus jugadores claves en el momento que era crucial en la temporada y no lo tuve porque, como vosotros todos saben, tuvimos demasiadas lesiones y es difícil manejar un equipo así. Pero para mí fue un entrenador importante, fue un entrenador que a mí siempre dejó todo abierto y tiene la mente abierta y siempre pudo hacer las cosas que eran importantes para mí, para el club junto a él. Entonces no tengo nada de que contestar ni nada, solo reclamar ni nada, porque fue un entrenador que a mí acá me ha ayudado bastante también.
For Greg, it was a difficult moment because he, didn't have his key players in crucial moments of the season during the year because of the injuries. And we had a lot of injuries, and that's always hard to manage a team that has a lot of injuries. But I think Greg is an important coach, in my opinion. I think he did the best he could. I have nothing to call out of him. He helped me personally. I think he did the best he could.
Gracias, Douglas.
Nada.
We have one from Josh Guessman. Go ahead, Josh.
Douglas, thanks for taking the time. Just to clarify on the contract, have you had any conversations with the team about extending your contract into next year?
Douglas, aclarando sobre tu contrato, ¿has tenido ya conversaciones sobre extender tu contrato con el equipo?
No, porque estábamos esperando que acabe la temporada y ahí ver lo que era mejor para las dos partes, mi club y todavía no. Entonces, ahora como había contestado antes, tengo que agarrar un tiempo para mí y ver todas las situaciones alrededor y decidir después con la cabeza fría.
No conversations have taken place yet because we were waiting for, the season to end and see what's best for both parties and both sides. So not yet, but now, like I've said before, I need just some time for myself and see everything with a, more clear head before we make a choice and a decision. So.
Thank you.
Rob Jalen with the last one.
Douglas, muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Has estado en muchos de los más grandes clubes del mundo, como hemos dicho, en Italia, en Alemania. Para ti, ¿qué crees que le falta al equipo del Galaxy institucionalmente para llegar a otro nivel o la cima de MLS otra vez? Gracias por tu tiempo.
Yo creo que la MLS es una liga que está creciendo mucho y están trayendo jugadores buenos también a otros equipos y ahora el nivel aumentando tenemos que nosotros también prepararse más y más. Y una cosa que yo digo siempre, claro que eso no va a cambiar, pero falta un poquito de poner un poco de... Acá no hay descenso, no hay un equipo que cae, otro que sube, siempre son los mismos. Entonces llega a un coger de la temporada que o tú estás bien y sigues haciendo lo que estás haciendo o cierra la página y intentamos el año próximo. Y eso se va a saber en las otras ligas, no pasa, porque si tú cierras una puerta, va a bajar de división y acá no se baja. Entonces eso da mucho, te pone más ganas, te pone a saber que la presión está ahí, atrás siempre, tiene que trabajar cada vez más y más y acá eso no lo hay. Y yo sé que eso no va a cambiar porque es una manera diferente y tengo total respeto a eso. Pero una de las cosas que yo en mi vida toda siempre tuve eso y por eso entro en campo siempre motivado a dar lo mejor y saber que quiero siempre estar en el top. Porque tuve situaciones que salí campeones, todas las veces que estuve en Bayern, Juve, vosotros saben ya, y en el gremio bajé de división con mi equipo que crecí. Entonces yo tengo los dos lados de la moneda y sé que cuán importante eso es para el fútbol.
So the question is, at being on some of the best clubs in the world and like Italy and Germany and what he thinks the club is missing, to be at the top again. And then Douglas' answer, he says, I think that MLS is a league that's growing a lot. And as we know, bringing big players and, the level is growing. And something I can say is that personally, I just because there's no relegation here. So there's like a moment in the season where if you're a team that's no longer fighting for a playoff spot, you kind of lose some of that pressure. And I think with relegation, you do have a little bit more of that pressure, and you don't have that here. So I know that's not going to change here, and I respect that. But, I've had it in my career that's just an extra motivation, to be at the top. And, when I was in Bayern and Juve, we were successful. But then when I was in Gremio, we were relegated. So I've lived both sides of that spectrum. So I think that does give you a little bit more pressure just to keep pushing. All right. Any other questions? Alex, did you have a follow-up? I think.
No.
All right. Thank you for your time, Douglas.
Thank you, guys.
All you guys went through, and you yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the season was. Let's see. To reflect back on the season, it was weird. It was weird, really weird. Strange, really strange. But yeah, there was a protest. Struggling to get results right. Struggling to figure out things. Having real unfortunate losses and giving up goals in strange ways. Deflections and, things just not going our way. Always having to, claw back just to get back into the game, or at least try to be competitive, right, and not let the game just go out of reach. Yeah. But, and then lots of injuries. Yeah, one by one, people started to go down. Non-contact injuries, contact injuries, and starting players who can, make differences, right? those experienced players who are, core group players. And then things get real, get real tough, let's say that. So given the way how things have been going, then you get your core players go down, and then other guys have to step in. To be fair, everyone who stepped in, was ready, tried to give it their all, given the circumstances. But that weird, strange, giving up goals in weird ways, continued on. But we never stopped battling, never stopped grinding, never stopped, trying to get out of what we were in. The effort was always there, and I know everyone wanted the same thing, which was to turn this around. So I mean, it was strange, but real unfortunate. I say strange because we had such a good group, such a good team, good people. We all wanted the same thing, which was, to be competitive, to win, to lift trophies. And we all felt that this group was more than capable to do that. And it was just not happening, which was real strange. Things just weren't clicking for some reason. But even then, we were we still grinded till the end. So there's not really one thing I can say about this year, but it was a strange year. I mean, real strange for sure.
I guess the only thing you can say is glad it's over.
It's over. The guys upstairs will ultimately, make decisions, and to the best of their ability to get this group on the right track for next season, right? So, guys can clear their minds and get ready for what's to come next season. There was a lot this year, man. Protests, the window, not being able to sign players. I feel like, they tried to do some moves upstairs. They tried within what they had, within what they can do. And, we tried, given the circumstances of injuries and the ban of the transfer window, and then, all the emotions and of everything, everything together, right?
You've been with Greg for a while now. How do you think he sort of processes this season going into the offseason?
I've been with him for a long time. I know how he works for the most part. He's really gonna dissect everything, inch by inch, player, what they contribute, what they bring on and off the field. If they have more to give, like little things like that. He's gonna overall look at each player one by one and see how he can put together a team that can really gel together and have the characteristics to fit each other into the style of play that he ultimately wants to see, right? So I feel like that'll be the way that he'll be looking at things, and along with that, I believe now they can make some moves out of the league. So they'll be looking to, you know, add some people as well who can fit into that and ultimately, you know, you fit in well and can make a difference, right? Can be a game changer, you know. So yeah.
Season like this oftentimes reflects a team that needs a turnover, needs a rebuilding.
Right.
You look at there are so many contexts to what happened as you laid out. And one of those contexts is that early on in the, you know, when the season began, because of situation one, the ban and the $1 million fine, Grant Sears situation, you guys started without really wingers, which really kind of, you weren't able to be at your best. The wingers you're bringing in are brand new. They're kind of finding itself. It takes a little while.
Right.
You guys aren't getting the goals that your performance probably deserves. Kind of puts you in a little bit of a hole, and then you just start losing people. It would certainly seem that with the understanding that there are going to be some players who depart and there's going to be new players coming in, that there's a core here that's capable of competing for a championship. Your thoughts?
Yeah. That's it's a really good diagnosis there. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a core here who, you know, like I said, that you can, you know, a core group of players who definitely went down, but obviously they'll be back and healthy, and you know, pick up where we left off, and you know, with even more, they'll be hungrier than ever because they missed a large part of the season, and you know, they'll definitely be excited to be back and excited to you know, get on the field again and you know, make a difference like they always do. But yeah. All of that was right on the spot. You know, we were missing, you know, the wingers who can, you know, make a difference. Like Sam, he was quick. He can take people one-on-one. Can, you know, make the differences on his day. And then you had other people who came in within the season. Tyler came in before. Preseason, you know, it took him some time to gel, but he adapted pretty quickly to be fair, in all honesty. And it was a fresh breath of air, you know, to know that a player like his caliber came into the team and fit into the group really well. Great guy, good to have around, and he was a great player. He is a great player. So I mean, we have a core group who the guys upstairs can definitely look at and, you know, kind of and build around. And then you just got to add those pieces who can, you know, complement and definitely hold down their part, you know. So
Difficult season for you as well. You dealt with some injuries and some health things. When you look back on it, I guess just describe your season and how do you feel in terms of getting ready for next year?
Injuries. I mean, yeah. I had the high ankle sprain. Turns out, you know, after a few weeks and then getting reevaluated, it was not just a high ankle sprain. It was a high ankle sprain and a low ankle sprain. The reason why things were not getting better after some time. So I definitely a surprise to see that and hear that, because things were just not getting better as I felt when I was moving around on the field trying to come back. But luckily, I mean, in a way, I missed Leagues Cup. I don't think I missed any league games because of it. But yeah, improved from that, got better from that, and then I got the concussion, and then obviously missed the last 4 games, I believe, the last 4 games because of that, which was real unfortunate because I was just starting to feel like myself again, feel real good, and get into that, season form of like moving. Okay, my body is moving again. I'm feeling good. I can help, the back end. And really, when we were fighting to stay in, get a playoff position, I was feeling real good about myself that I can be a big key factor in that. But unfortunately, obviously, I got hit in the head in the Portland game, and definitely was seeing stars and things were moving, and just obviously couldn't drive home. So I was definitely like, this is not normal, things ain't right. So obviously contacted the medical team right away, and definitely concussion. And it was just unfortunate, really. It was disappointing. It was disappointing. After that, I let the team know right away that what happened and the diagnosis, and I feel a bit terrible. I won't be able to be with them in battle, right, for the rest of the season. So that was that. But definitely emotional season for sure. But even through that, just kept going, kept my head down, kept trying to be, a good teammate, a person who you can rely on the field in any way possible, wherever needed, whatever coach needed, whatever anybody needed. I was trying to, get back, get forward, shift, cover, whatever was needed. I definitely gave it my all. I mean, overall, I feel like I only had those two injuries, but they were at key moments of the season for sure, which was gutting for sure for me. That, the dizziness, I've had, I don't want to get too into that, but I've had a health issue for the past year and some months now. So, and this health issue has, I've been dealing with a lot. Don't want to get too into that.
But it's something that's
It's ongoing.
kind of deal with.
Yeah, I have to deal with, for the rest of my life now, and kind of, but things are good. Things are good. I know how to manage it. I know how to control it. I know how to subside symptoms, and ultimately, I can play the game. I can train, and I can live life happily. So it's good. I mean, that's the part that was affecting me most. Just things off the field, right? So, but things are good. Things are getting better. That's been an ongoing thing. So yeah.
Next, we'll go to Alex Ruiz.
Thank you so much for your time. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about it earlier, the fan boycotts. How much did that affect you and your teammates at the start of the season? And I guess how much of an impact was it to kind of see the stands a bit emptier than usual?
Yeah, I mean, that was tough, man. That was tough. Like I said, that played an emotional part and everything, right? I mean, listen, from my standpoint and my view, you give everything for the club, right? And club's trying to supply you with everything possible to perform on the field and get results and be as supportive as possible, right? But you obviously have what's going on happening, and then you train so hard every week to come to the game and perform, and then when you come in, the support's not there, right? Usually that's part of the home advantage of having that support there and having that pressure on the other team. But that's an advantage for you because you have that extra push. You know, you have, you, in a way, you and the home crowd are working together. Your supporters are working together to ultimately get this result right and just, overcome everything and push and get that result, get the goal. Then you get the momentum, and then you get into the other team's head, and then that's when things can happen, and then everything just shifts, right? But it wasn't like that, right? Crowd wasn't there. I mean, supporters weren't there. Obviously, they have their reasons. I'm not pointing fingers or anything at all. I'm just saying how I feel and my perspective on things. And yeah, it just wasn't there. And, teams came in and saw, an empty stadium. And we're just like, all right, this is just no pressure at all, right? Even though there was a battle happening on the field and we were fighting, we were fighting and trying to get things going, but it just wasn't happening. So from, that side of things, that's kind of how I see it. And it sucked. It sucked for sure. It sucked from the players' point of view. And then obviously they had their reasons, right? They had their reasons, but on the other side of that, you kind of leave us hanging, right? In some sort of way. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel on that. Yeah, that's just my perspective on that, and how I feel on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm just wondering, not so much a compare and contrast, but you've gone through, you were actually with USA during some of the difficult times there.
Right.
How is it different? How is this different than that? The biggest ways, I would say. Because one of the things that strikes out to me is that the clubs are in different places.
Yeah, I mean, from that point of view, I feel like I was too young to compare anything with Chivas. Yeah, I don't see a real comparison there. It doesn't go together.
The records are similar, but the teams are very different.
Very different, yeah. Record. I guess you can, if you want to compare it like that, yeah. But yeah, like I said, we have a good team, really good team, and things just weren't working out. It was, like I said, very weird, very strange, and just very unfortunate. And trust, by the end of it, everybody was, ran to the ground, right? We gave everything, even though it may not seem like it on the pitch and results, but man, we were giving everything we could. We were, even if guys were banged up, had some injuries, man, we didn't want to leave any what ifs or anything on the field, or just, in our minds, and, we can't live with that. So we would, every single person would do their best to be on the field, push through any type of pain or anything like that. And unfortunately, injuries came along with that. So yeah, very unfortunate.
All right, thanks for your time.
Maya, as coming off of wrapping up your first season in MLS, a couple days after the game, how are you able to process what you went through to get here? I mean, and just acclimated with the group, and how does that set you up for next year, you think?
As I have saying many times, it's new challenge for me, and really I've enjoyed the last 2-3 months because there's everything new, not only soccer, but also the lifestyle, the culture, and the history. It's very impressed, to be honest. I really wanted to come to America when I was in Europe, but it's the tight schedule and the fixture. Then it was really difficult, even for off seasons, for traveling, for vacation. And now I'm here for learning many things every day, not only myself for in the Galaxy, but also just general things. My daughter's school and my wife, the staff, everything. It's very, this kind of experience makes me more mature. So I'm really happy for that. And in terms of football, soccer, still I have to learn. It's different, to be honest, especially here. First of all, I'm very impressed what they organize, the club, the media staff, and the team manager, the nutrition. It's really high level, to be honest. Probably I said already for when I came here, and after that, the football is different. It's more like possession, especially with Greg. It's more passing football, which I prefer. But we need to building up more things, and we have to understand how we play and what we need to do and what we shouldn't do. That kind of mistake cost a lot through the season, probably. And even last game, we still making same mistakes and conceding the first 5 minutes and conceding last 1 minute again. I watched the game last night. I stopped the first half. It's very painful. So make sure we come back. I think I read like this is the worst season for the Galaxy history. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's 1 of 3.
Yeah. So it's embarrassing, to be honest. It's really embarrassing. Last 5 games was really, really embarrassing results and performance, and without, I didn't feel the passion as well. So make sure we come back next season with full energy and ready for fighting through all the season. That's most important. And now I think the club and the board will thinking many things to improve ourselves, and the player have to be fit from the first game and the new season. That's the main target for next 2 months, 2-3 months. Yeah.
You arrived after many of the players who were out for the year were already out for the year. Do you have a feel for is the talent here to compete next year? Is the culture here to compete next year, or does this club need to switch some things up?
We shouldn't go down from now on. So we have only opportunity to go up. So yes, but how we go up is very important. Then I have been good moment of the club and bad moment of the club, and like Southampton was flying when I joined. After that, many players go to Liverpool City, Liverpool United, or even the London clubs. But for example, last 2 seasons, the club was struggling. Sampdoria and Schalke, it was really difficult to make the things better. That's why we have to keep fighting. We have to compete every season to keep our shape as a team, as a club, and this is building the club history and the club legacy. That's probably MLS have been over 30 years, and then I think very impressed improvement compared to the other competitions. So, and I believe that the Galaxy is one of the very most popular club from the outside of the country, and we have to back to where we are and even better place. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I had the opportunity to go to Emirates or go back to Japan, but I prepared to come here. So this is a new challenge, and this is a tough challenge. Everywhere it's tough. If you are not competing every day, you cannot get or you cannot accomplish something. But if you want to accomplish something, you have to sacrifice a lot, and you have to put the good effort every day. That's next season my target.
When you talk about this league being a new challenge, aside from that, where the Galaxy was and what you were fighting to do, what were the biggest challenges this league presented that are unique, that you do not face when you're in Europe or in Japan?
I think traveling away matches. I was lucky. People say I was lucky because I came already after the most toughest traveling is done, but still went to Seattle and Minnesota, and also moved to Austin with temperature difference and humidity. Even delay the kickoff was very hard, I would say. Yeah, so next season it's very important to keep my fitness. Even we have like long journey or traveling, many different circumstances. So I think this is the biggest difference from Europe or even Japan. Yeah.
As you look back in your career, what were your longest trips to travel for games? What was the longest? What was the shortest, you think?
Australia, from London to Australia, 24 hours with different opposite side, because this is I think Asian Cup, and Asian Cup is in winter time. So and England is still goes on for the winter. I remember that I play 1st January, then immediately fly to Australia, and it was crazy.
We've got one question on Zoom. Go ahead, Josh. Josh.
Can you see sound guy? Is the Zoom line open? Because currently Josh. Line open, but I don't know if he's set up. Can you be muted or unmuted? There you go. Josh. We're still working on this, Josh. Okay, how about now? Josh, go ahead.
That's great. We're having some Zoom audio issues.
That's what we think Josh would have. I don't know.
But we do have food.
Oh, hey. Have support. Well, that's the reason we came.
All right, let's see. Josh, go ahead. Ask your question. All right. Can you hear me? Yes. Perfect. All right. When you look at the off season, is this going to be a typical off season for you? I know you just came off of sort of a pre-season, and then you joined the LA Galaxy. Now you have another off season for the next 2-3 months. You're going to find that maybe a little different than your normal training.
Then my off-season plan, does he say?
And the fact that the off season will be
Long.
October to January.
Yeah.
It's a little longer than you had in for sure.
Yeah. I'm new, so can I have some advice, please? What should I do 2 months? Yeah, but no, serious one. But I'm thinking to join some training session in England or Japan. That's It is too long for just resting 2 months, and especially I just started in 2.5 months ago. So don't worry, I will be fit for next season.
Thanks for your time, Maya. That's it.
Done? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Certainly helped this club, but this club also did not do what you were hoping to do. Just your feelings on the time that you were here, and where you think this club, going through that, but where you think this club is going.
Yeah, like I've said many times before, I thoroughly enjoyed my time. Really disappointed that it's ended the way it has done, because I believe that when we got the result against Chicago, it was 3-0, the clean sheet. I felt as though we swung a little bit of momentum, and the results picked up a little bit. But obviously the last 6 games we've not won a game, and we've conceded an awful lot of goals. We've scored a lot of goals as well, but I haven't got any points from ain't got enough points from them games, to keep our hopes of getting the playoffs alive. So to be out of it with 2 games to go was really disappointing, because we thought if we could take it to the last day, and it'll hopefully be in our own hands against a team who was also fighting for the playoffs. But it wasn't to be, and like I say, we've got a lot of work to do in the off season.
Hey Billy, there's an option for you for next season. Are you interested in coming back here? Have the discussion started? And what were your overall thoughts on the league itself? Coming in, scoring the goals you did, what kind of playing against other defenses? Did you see anything? I'm pretty sure you saw everything through your career, but what do you think about the style of defensive play and overall solid play in the league?
Yeah, obviously, to the first part of your question, I'd love to stay. I've really enjoyed it. The lads have been great, the fans have been great, all the staff's been great, and I feel I've got a part to play, and I'd really like to, because the way it's ended this season, I'd like to be part of a successful season next season. I've spoken to the manager, so who knows, we'll find out in the near future. But yeah, going back to the second part of your question, some of the games have been really open, and a lot of goals in them. Couldn't really get control of games, but I think that's because we were chasing it big time towards the end, where we was going out and not having control of many games, and it was basically whoever scored the most goals, and you can't play football like that. You've got to take each game as it comes, which all come with different challenges. Obviously, the away games is something new to me, which the travelling between the games and the time zones and the different changes of weathers. But no, I've enjoyed that as well. That was something that the lads said to me, look, you might have to get used to quickly, but that was a good challenge in itself as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully I can keep getting many experiences like that.
Do you have any plans to train back home or throughout the off season, or would you just stay around here, or what are your off season plans?
I'm going to stay around for a couple of weeks. Enjoy some time off in LA, which, like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed with the family, and then going to head back to England and hopefully find out what my plans are for the future. But I'll be obviously keeping fit by myself, and that is the hardest part. And it'll be strange because I'll be going back, and the football season in England will be in full flow, and I'll be itching to be on the pitch, because I came here with obviously having the off season in England, and I just started to feel good in my body, and I think I started 8 games. So to get the 6 goals, I was delighted. That was my aim. But obviously, when I got to 6 so quickly, I wanted to try and get more. But I'd like to be able to build from that, and hopefully that can happen.
In the time that you were here, what aspects or what about what the Galaxy did on the field, maybe in terms of the style of play or some aspect of that, would you say was a real positive, something that you really thought that you really admired?
Yeah, obviously the manager tries to make us play in the right way, building out from the back and playing through teams and not making it easy for the opposition. But you know, it's been said quite a lot recently about injuries and change of personnel in the team, where we was fighting against it, whatever personnel we put out there, and we couldn't build no rhythm or momentum to get us season kick-started. So, and obviously I weren't here at the start of the season, but the lads have said that that's probably where it did go wrong. They didn't get the start that they wanted, and with obviously 9 teams getting into the playoffs, well, a chance to get into the playoffs is something that LA Galaxy should be getting into. So, the boys are hugely disappointed for each other and for the fans that we haven't made it. So it needs to be put right next season, definitely.
You ever have a season like this where there's so many injuries across the roster? I mean, we've never seen it around here. I mean, so many guys are out for ended up out for the season.
Yeah, it happens in football. They're the challenges. That's what you have your squads for. Everyone's always asking questions on the outside. Is it the training? Is it too hard? Is it the pitches? Is it this? Is it that? Bad luck, because you've had 4 bad knee injuries to 4 players that probably would be in the starting 11. And obviously I know that's why I came to the club, because, Chicha was out for the season, and I had to try and come and score some goals in replace of him. So he was a big miss in the dressing room as well. So I've obviously met him a few times since I've been here, and you can tell he's got an influence around the place, and he's been a huge loss, as well as others, like I said.
Is it the pitch training? Is it trouble about
The pitch wasn't great the last 2 games, but that's because they had to rip it up. No, the pitch has been brilliant. All the pitches was fine, even the Seattle turf. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought, and my body wasn't as bad the next day. So, obviously injuries happen through the season, but when they come so quick and fast and as bad as they have done this season, it is going to hurt. It's going to hurt the squad, and it's going to affect morale maybe, and obviously affecting the results and obviously the chasing the season from the start that they had after the first 12 games to then trying to make it happen for the last 12 games. We just didn't have enough individually and collectively as a squad this season.
And 3 of those knee injuries to captain, replacement captain.
Exactly. So not only good players, but leaders as well, which, there is leaders in there. I tried to come as well to give leadership. Obviously, the change room in there is really good. The atmosphere, the morale, and the way people get around each other, it's a good environment. But obviously, to concede so many goals as a team, not as a defence, as a team, as an 11, it was too easy to break down, and goals were going in far too easy. So that's something that I know we've got to tighten up for next season, definitely.
We're now going to go to questions on Zoom. Alex Ruiz, go ahead.
What you've seen in Greg kind of managing this season. Obviously, you talked about the injuries and just kind of having the schedule kind of bundled up at the end. How do you think he's managed the team during your time here?
Yeah, I've spoke to Greg about that, and I know that he's had players here before at other clubs, and he's obviously found it difficult with a lot of big characters that he's lost and a lot of quality players that he's lost to injury. And you have to manage some players differently, and he's had to obviously do that. You can't treat every player you treat them all the same in the dressing room, but you sometimes have to, if they're a young lad or lacking in confidence or going through a bit of bad form. As a manager, you have to manage people in different ways, and he's found that a challenge this season, which he said he's learnt a lot from, and spoke to him about that quite recently actually, and it's tough at times to try and get everyone on the same page and everyone with a full confidence and concentration on the pitch when obviously the changes are happening so frequently.
Go ahead, Rob. Robbie.
Wait, Rob, can you repeat your question?
Yes, go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. Hey, Billy, thanks for your time. You have a long storied career. You're the championship record goal scorer. What do you feel like you have left to prove at this point, and what would you like to prove with the Galaxy should you return?
What would I like to prove with the Galaxy when I return? Oh, well, I'd like to come and be a part of this squad to have a successful season. I know that the last 3-4 years we've only made the playoffs once, so we need to change that, and I'd like to be a part of that. I wanted to come here and I play football to be successful, and this season, which has been a short season for me, has not been successful. Individually, it went okay, but you want to be in these big games, and the big games are coming up now in the playoffs, and we're not going to be there, unfortunately. So it's going to be disappointing to have to watch that. But we'll have to bottle that feeling up and make sure that we come back stronger mentally and physically to make sure that that feeling isn't there again next season.
Anything else, Rob?
Thanks for your time, Billy. I think that's it.
Certainly a difficult season. And I guess just how do you encapsulate it?
Well, it's difficult to encapsulate in a short way. It just felt like it was one of those years where it was just bracketed into different types of seasons throughout one season, Obviously, with the tough start, you put yourself behind the 8 ball right away. It's pretty difficult to have success in this league, and we were so far behind the 8 ball that I thought we had one of the better runs from any team in MLS this year for a span of 10 to 15 games. I don't know exactly how many it was, and even that was not enough to close the gap. And so obviously we had a whole lot of players, different players play, certainly different players play in different positions, different partnerships, all kinds of things that is difficult to overcome in a season. And I think we found some good stretches with a certain team throughout it, and obviously it wasn't good enough in the end.
Have you ever been part of a team that's gone through a season with this many injuries?
Closest for me was in 2018 with Toronto FC. We won the championship the year before. We had about 3 weeks off, went straight into Champions League, lost in the final, and then there was a whole litany of injuries that occurred after that. It's, as you've seen in this league, it's difficult to withstand a lot of the games that were played, and that's probably as close as it gets. But those were a lot of muscular injuries and stuff like that. These kinds of injuries are things that guys can't really do anything to prevent. The training staff can't really do anything to prevent when it comes to ligaments and things like that. It's a lot more difficult to manage and difficult to prevent than some muscular injuries in that regard. This is the most extreme I've ever seen it.
And when you look at where the injuries occurred in terms of on the field, which was pretty much everywhere.
Sure.
Right? But you lose your spine,
Yep.
Most veteran center back, your holding midfielder, your striker. Midfield itself is a little bit in flux with Markey in and out depending on where he was. The back line where partnerships are most important.
Yep.
Every position I think had injuries, maybe left back not so much.
Yep.
But, just trying to build off of that and as a team be strong defensively, because that's really where we saw the problems, is too many goals conceded and too many goals that really shouldn't be conceded.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, you said everything I would have said. I mean, look, partnerships matter, continuity matters. We see the best teams in this league, the most successful teams in this league. They've got a similar team on the field every week and week in and week out. And unfortunately, Greg was not afforded that luxury this year. We were not afforded that luxury this year. We pick up a player in Maya halfway through the season who's able to play every game, but he played with 3 different center backs. And as soon as I was finally got an opportunity to play, I get a back injury. As soon as Chris starts to get a run of form, he gets a groin injury, whatever it may be. And so compare that with all the season-ending injuries and stuff like that. Of course, it's difficult, but we know that we could have done a better job. Those of us who were able to play in some of the games that we had, and replace of some of those players, and we'll learn from that and we'll get better. And I think we'll be deeper and more experienced and better next year because of it.
As a player who's on coming back next year, how much does this season burn the fire for next season?
A lot. I mean, I said to the guys a couple nights ago, to lose like that, to have a home game but already be out of the playoffs is something that no player wants to ever go through. We want to give our fans special nights. That's what they deserve, and we are more motivated than ever as a club, as a player pool for this team to remedy this, to bring back good moments and not have so many negative moments throughout a season. And so I hate to lose. I know there's a lot of guys in this locker room who hate to lose and want to have better moments and to be involved in the playoffs and not be watching from our couch. It's just not what you want to do as a competitor. And so we'll come back ready right away to hit the ground running.
We're going to go with a question on Zoom from Alex Ruiz. Kevin, can you turn on your volume? Hold on.
He asked about Greg. I heard the question. It's a good question, Alex. I think, as you guys could see when he spoke after the game and the last game of the season, I think he takes a lot of this, a lot of weight of what's happened this season and what goes on at this club personally. And nobody, I can assure you, nobody in the world wants this club to succeed and this team to succeed more than Greg does. In terms of the way he managed it, not very many managers, in my opinion, can keep the team engaged and afloat and together throughout a season like this, as well as I thought he did, for us to even be in the position we were to be able to be fighting in the end. I know that he will evaluate himself, as we all will, to say, what could I have done better? Because ultimately we didn't succeed. Success is winning a championship at this club, and that's not what we did this year. And so, again, I thought he did a very good job to keep us all together. He is a very tactical-minded coach, and you need time and you need continuity with some of those things. And I think he wasn't afforded that this year, but like I won't, I'm sure he won't. We're not in the business of making excuses. We need to get better, and we'll do that coming into next year for sure.
And then we have one final one from Josh Guessman.
Eriq, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. If you can look back at the beginning of the year and the fan boycott and everything that sort of led to that first half of the season, Raheem was talking and said that it affected you guys probably more than you guys let on. What are your thoughts on just the whole process that led to that first half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, let me start by saying, first and foremost, I'm not here to point fingers at anybody, at any group, at any player. I don't think that's constructive. However, if you look at this objectively, you want your home field to be a fortress, and if you don't have your supporter groups in the stands, no matter the situation, it's going to affect you. And if you look at our home record to start the year, it wasn't very good. Now, us as players still need to show up on the field and play well, and we didn't do a good enough job of that. We didn't win enough games in that early stretch. But of course, there was a black cloud, if you will, over this building, and we want our supporters to be our supporters and right there with us no matter what, and we want to give them what they deserve, which is success no matter who's on the field and no matter what happens. And so I think that part of the reason that we went on a run there was because we got them back into the stadium and we stopped having that cloud for sure. But again, I'm not here to make excuses. Nobody is. And we hope that we start the year next year with them in the stands helping us to do what we believe is necessary, and that's making sure that nobody comes in here and thinks that they're going to get any points.
Thanks, Eriq.
And then we have Rob Galen with a question. Go ahead. Rob, can you hear us?
I'm sorry, did you want me?
Did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I can't hear well, so I'm gonna go ahead and shoot my question, Eriq. Thank you so much for your time. I know that Maya's spoken about preseason already starting, and Greg has spoken about that as well. The work starts now. On a personal level, do you have any certain way that you're going to get prepared for next season? And then has the coaching staff maybe given you any homework or any tape or anything to do to get prepared for next season?
Thank you. I have not had any conversations with the coaching staff since the year ended yet. That is something that for sure we will do to talk about things that were successful, things that I need to get better at. I'll be entering year 12, and I firmly believe that every year you play, there's something that you should add and improve and make better for the year upcoming, and I will do that. For me, the biggest thing is durability. I think I had a lot of moments this year where I stepped on the field and was able to help the team, but then for whatever reason, something would come up and I wasn't able to have the run of games that I felt like I deserved and I felt like the team needed from me. And so this offseason, especially going in again into year 12, for me is all about making sure durability is there so that whenever Greg needs me next year, I can step on the field and be at my best. And so I think I had some good moments this year for sure. I wish I was a part of more winning games again, like anybody else. But for me, my primary focus is durability, along with everything else that I always do in the off season, to be prepared as much as possible come January 13th or whatever the day is that we start next year.
All right, thanks for your time, Eriq.
Thank you, guys.
Triple, you get your thoughts on this season. Tough season all the way around, a lot of injuries. How do you process everything that went down this season?
Yeah, it's been a hard season, especially at the beginning. I think we kind of gave up a lot of points that then mid-season, later season was kind of hard to catch back. But definitely it's been tough because there's a lot of injuries too, and that definitely plays a big part of this season.
You guys, you had the slow start, and you sort of started picking things up there. I think after the Leagues Cup break, I believe there, and down the stretch, it was just too many injuries, too many goals allowed, and that's pretty much that summed it up for you guys. Right?
Yeah, I think after the Leagues Cup, we did a pretty good job on getting a lot of results for a long period of time. But I feel like psychologically also was hard for us to get points, and we could see the standings that we were not moving. But I think that we ended up in a positive note, that's for sure. We went from less to more. So I take that as a positive too.
The injuries, and they occurred all over the field, really messed with on-field chemistry. How difficult was it to kind of stay together when it's a different person in a different position every day?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it more difficult, but I feel like the guys who stepped up after these injuries did well, and at the end of the day, That's why you have the whole team to be there for anything happens, and I think they did all the guys did a good job on preparing themselves if the opportunity comes.
Your thoughts on your season? Playing time was what it was, but we had a stretch there near the end where you were getting a lot of playing time and doing quite well for this team. I got to think.
Yeah, thanks.
There was you had to get some joy out of that.
No, that's for sure. Personally, I think I got a lot of minutes at the end of the season and mid-season too, and I'm happy with it. I felt like I contributed to the team. I worked really hard to be prepared. Even when you are not started, it's not easy to be focused and knowing that the opportunity will come. Unfortunately, it came due a big injury, but I tried to do my best to fill that spot and give the best for the team, because at the end of the day, that's what we are, a team.
This is a team with a lot of young players in that position as well. Just working with them, what do you see, and what kind of future do you think this club has with those players?
Yeah, I feel like overall in the roster we have some really good young guys that with time and coaching will do well. They already bring a lot of value now, but I feel like with time they will even bring more, and with the help of the veteran guys and try to pass them their experience. That's something that I've been trying to do, and others as well. So I feel like having a mix, it's good for the team.
You're out of contract this season, I believe. Any talks of coming back next season? Has that discussion started, or do you expect it to start?
I feel like contract-wise, the team has an option. So they have an option that if they want to pick it up, I can be here one more year. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but hopefully in the next few weeks we'll know more about it.
You played for two of the better coaches in this league. Very different personalities as well. Just your thoughts on Greg as a coach, and I'd also like to hear your thoughts on Peter as a coach.
Yeah, definitely different personalities, that's for sure. But I feel I enjoyed a lot this year. And, Greg has a great sense of football, soccer tactics that I learned from, especially in my position, the way you move yourself and position yourself based on what the adversary is doing. And I feel like in Kansas City with Peter Vermees was a little bit more different, was more like a structure, a rigid structure. So it doesn't matter what the opponents do, that you are doing the same thing. So for me, it was a challenge to get better as a player here. And I think that I did a good job on trying to understand and put myself in a good position to learn the tactics as Greg taught me, and I'm very grateful for that, because even if I'm not staying, I'll definitely take those advices with me.
Peter's like one of the most organized.
Right. Yeah, it's more exactly. You're right. Very structured, and he did well too. So I'm happy that I got to be coached by two big ones.
He told me as a child he had his clothes organized in the drawers.
I can see that.
And we have one last question on Zoom. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, Uri. Thank you so much for your time. At the start of the season, there was fan protests, fan boycotts. If you could maybe talk about if that affected you, if you felt like it affected the group, starting off the season and not seeing as many fans in the stadium.
Yeah, so since I arrived here in January, February, I didn't know much of the whole story, and it seems like it was carried on from past years. But to me, it was more about trying to adapt. If the fans didn't come, how can we even make the most out of it and try to play out of it? However, not having the fans through all the season, definitely we felt it, and hopefully won't happen, because we need them. We love them to have them there, and just to let them know that they are hurt and they are special when we are on the field. So just encourage that from now forward they can keep coming, and because they are hurt.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Uri.
Thank you, guys.
Hey.
You pretty much stated Saturday night your thoughts on the season, but as you're a couple of days away here, what's still your emotions, and how much does that fire burn you heading to the next season to sort of get this thing turned around?
Yeah, it's a big fire, obviously. To not make the playoffs, obviously, as you heard what Greg said, is embarrassing. I also feel that emotion. It's a feeling that you don't like, obviously. You kind of reflect back, and you look back in the season, and you look at key points and key moments of the season, and obviously you wish you could have some stuff back, but that's just the nature of the sport. So yeah, you use it as fuel for the next year, for sure.
Have you thought about all of the different contexts to this season? And I mean, this is one of those years where, I don't know, is there anything you guys could have done that would have changed things?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. There's a lot of stuff that went into the season. Obviously, the protests, a lot of guys getting injured, new Leagues Cup, the congestion of games and whatnot. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went into it. I haven't really processed all the stuff that went into this season, but I know that, of course, I can't look away from it. It did take effect on our season and how it ended up. But is it an excuse? No, it's not. So yeah.
How about you personally? How do you feel about your performance this year? And when the season began, we thought we'd see you maybe up in the left wing spot a little more often than we did, and then pretty much attacking left back.
Yeah, you can thank Tyler for that. Tyler went and took my position. No, I'm kidding. Tyler's been excellent. But yeah, I think I had an okay season. If I was to compare it to last season, I think I did a little bit better last season. As I said before, I'm really hard on myself. I think this year I wasn't up to par. Or as I said before, our whole backline wasn't up to par for this season. Obviously, we let in the most goals since 2017 for this club, tied the 2017 record. So yeah, for me, it's just trying to limit moments where it could put our team at a very, very bad disadvantage, or aka shooting ourselves in the foot. I think we've done that a lot this season. And it's not just like, as I said before, the back line. It's this key moments we just kind of not really, you could say, where a team, gets a good goal on you, plays well, good soccer. A lot of times it's just our wrongdoing. So for me, that's my mainstay for next season, is to try to limit as much as possible doing, this absolutely unnecessary stuff that causes, pressure towards our back line or towards our goal. So yeah, and my season overall, I think I did okay. I'm really hard on myself, so I just want to do better next season for sure.
You've been with Greg in the past.
Yeah.
How do you think he sort of processes this season here? I mean, we'll ask him the same question.
Yeah.
But how do you think he sort of processes everything?
Yeah, he's a very, very. It's hard to say. It's hard to put into words, but he's a guy that really, really cares about this club. And as he said before, he's been in MLS for 20 odd years. He's a guy that does not like to not miss the playoffs. He's a guy that's really, really, he's really, really thoughtful in whatever he does. Being the GM, being the coach, he's very thoughtful in his process. So yeah, as I said before, it sucks not to make the playoffs, but this is a coaching staff that I truly believe that could carry this club to where it needs to be. Obviously, this season wasn't, by any imagination of the stretch, a good season, but I still have full faith in those guys. I know these guys. I know the league as well too, so I know coaches like that. This is a guy that loves this club, that wants this club to do well, so I know that the club will do well, knowing Greg.
You feel like the foundation is here right now to compete for a championship?
I think the foundation is set. I don't think the foundation this year was into play, but next year it is completely set up for us to do really, really well. I think next year is a very, very big year for us. Players and coaching staff-wise, is a very, very big year for us. End of story.
In your mind, what makes Greg a great coach?
He really thinks about all the possibilities in terms of tactical and whatnot. He's very, very thought out. He's very, very detail orientated. And me being in the league for 8 years, having 6 different coaches or whatnot, I could see what Greg does is very, very, how do I put it? Very, very thought out. And I think it's very, very planned. And it's like, when you come to game day, you're not in disarray or, have any doubts or whatnot. So I think he's a very, very good coach. As I said before, I grew up under his philosophy. So you can maybe call me biased or whatnot, but I think he's a very, very good coach. And I think he's here to make the Galaxy take the next step.
Next up, we'll be joined by Zoom questions. If you have a question for Rod, raise your hand. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Raheem. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to talk to you about the importance of having, this upcoming preseason to work with the back line. Obviously, there's been a lot of consistency issues there. And if you could talk about maybe getting a whole offseason to work with Maya Yoshida, who, has tons of experience, and he'll get a whole preseason under his belt with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be very important this offseason. And even during preseason to get, consistency with the back line and, get familiar with guys and whatnot and playing styles, because as you've seen before, during the season, a lot of different lineups and after a lot of new guys midway through the season. So it's in terms of continuity and consistency, yeah, it was a little bit difficult. But yeah, with the whole preseason and even offseason under our belts, I think that should, take care of itself, obviously. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go next to Mike Ray.
Hi, Raheem. Eriq Zavaleta mentioned year by year how he always likes to add something to his game and improve his game. Is there anything for next year that you might want to add to your game, or specifically you might want to improve, or maybe just improve just a tad?
Yeah. There's a couple actually. I think my crossing needs to be a little bit better. That's something I want to work on. And after maybe my runs, I think I need to be a little bit more dangerous at times in the attacking half to make runs and create for myself or create for my teammates. And defensively, I just need to be more sound and, understand cues, understand when to get rid of the ball, when to, stuff like that, little stuff like that, obviously. So yeah, I'll take that into consideration for next year and work on those for sure.
Thank you, Raheem.
Yep.
Thanks for your time, Rod.
Progress for this season and what you achieved individually?
Individually, it was a pretty good season. I think I can do a lot better though. I think I'm just scratching the surface. I think I can, even numbers-wise, do a lot better in this league. I think as a group and a collective, it wasn't our best season. It was a season full of challenges and injuries, and all the other boys have touched on all that. But yeah, I think if we get a solid season as a team, our individual performances will be even better as well.
And then you said you grew up watching this club, being a fan of this club, but to play here, put the jersey on, how did that sort of motivate you this season, going through these offseason?
Yeah, it was a dream come true. I've always wanted to play for this club, so coming here has been a blessing, and I never took it for granted. Each time I put on that shirt, I tried to do my best, tried to play for the fans, play for the history of the club. So it was definitely a dream come true, and I hope to play many more seasons for this club. So I think it wasn't a dream as far as not making the playoffs. That was very disappointing, but it'll taste that much sweeter when we do have success in the future. So I think setbacks make the victory even better.
I think you're very humble in the way you portrayed your season. I think you were one of the real bright points of this team this year. And you really kind of were able to step in right away and make your presence felt. We sometimes see players struggle with acclimation at first coming into the league, especially coming from outside. What made it simpler for you?
I just think the way my career's gone. I've played in a few different countries. Adapting was easy coming here. I already speak the language. When I got to Portugal, I had to quickly pick up the language, and there were different challenges. So coming here, it's a great group of guys. They welcome me, and I just know that hard work pays off. You might see me after every training, I do extra finishing, and that that translates into the games. A lot of the goals I scored were from outside the box or from long distance, and that's because we practice those things. So I think if you work hard and, I mean, you use the experience that you've gained in other situations, you can come in and make an instant impact, and that's what I try to do.
Your thoughts on playing for Greg and what it is that he does for creating the atmosphere around the team?
Yeah, he's very tactically smart. He does his homework. He always does the analysis on the other teams. So we're well prepared going into games. He's a good man manager. He makes you feel welcome as soon as you're here. He makes you feel like you're part of the team. So it was a pleasure playing for him this season, and I think it was just a tricky year with all the challenges we had. We had so many injuries. We couldn't keep a solid lineup where we could get some chemistry and we could gel. So I think I might have been one of the only players to play every game. So that just says something. We had so many injuries. Even Riqui at the end has an injury. A lot of our main starting players had season-ending injuries, so it was crazy. But I look forward to next season, having a proper pre-season with the group, and if they'll have me, that is. If they'll. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you lose your entire spine to season-ending injuries. The kind of injuries that you suffered. You've played for a long time. Have you ever seen a season like that?
Never. I did interviews after the Minnesota game, and that was I've never seen this many season-ending injuries. I've never seen it in all my years of playing in Europe and even New Zealand. I've never seen it, and it was crazy. And I said it before, but the players that got injured were very professional. They look after themselves. They're always in the gym. Lucas, Chicha, Gaston, Martin, these guys are animals in the gym, and they're very good professionals. So I think it just comes down to bad luck, to be honest.
Well, and the types of injuries that they occurred. I mean, those training type injuries. Do you feel like the foundation is here that this club can compete for a championship as soon as the next season?
We have a lot of players coming off contract, so I think there might be like 17 players that have options or are leaving, so there's going to be a lot of work for the club to do. I'm not here on contract yet, so I mean, there aren't that many players that are here signed for next season, so I think the club has a lot of work to do, but we do have so much talent here. Arriving from Europe, coming here, I saw that the level was very good in training straight away. So, and I think we have a fire in our belly to prove them wrong, and I think we'll see what happens.
Do you think a season like this gets you back? Well, you were called into a couple on the roster for some the preliminary rosters, but a season like this gets you back in the discussion for the national team?
I'm not sure. I'm just enjoying my football, playing as hard as I can, and focus on the club stuff at the moment. But if that comes to fruition, it'd be a blessing. It was an honor to represent the national team, and I'd always be proud and happy to represent them. So whatever comes of that, if I have a great season next year, who knows?
Next, we'll start with Zoom questions. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Tyler, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Just to go back to your contract, you guys have had discussions about extending your stay with the LA Galaxy?
Yeah, I think there's some ongoing discussions. Obviously, I want to be here, but I signed a one-year deal, and I wanted to prove myself and prove my value. So it comes down to my agent and the club and all of that. So it's still early days, but I think they're starting to talk.
Very good. And then at the beginning of the season, obviously with the fan boycott and sort of all the turmoil that happened at the beginning of the year, Raheem said that he thought it affected you guys more than maybe you guys let on in that first half of the season. What were your thoughts through the first 17 games of the season?
Yeah, for sure. And for me personally, it was a little bit disappointing. Obviously, this is my childhood club, and I wanted to come and play in a full stadium. And having the boycott was a little bit tough. And yeah, we had a really hard start to the season. But you just look at the games like the Rose Bowl game, and we did have a full fan base there. They were there in numbers, and we played really well. And football's nothing without fans, so we need our fans. We need everyone to come to the games, and that helps us a lot.
And
thank you.
And we'll wrap up with Alex Ruiz.
Hey, Tyler. One of the things that they say in sports is the best ability is availability. You were one of the guys that played all of the games this season. You even had a broken hand at one point. I guess for you, maybe, what's something that's really helped you kind of stay healthy a lot during your career? I was kind of researching you, and, you don't seem to be a guy who seems to get hurt often. And I guess if you could talk about as well, just how influential it was to be able to play in every single game for this year.
A lot of prayers. Also, when I grew up, I had a sprint coach, so I think the way I run is pretty symmetrical, and that helps with injuries. But this year I had something to prove, and I did have injuries, but I wanted to play through and show that I do love the club and I want to be here. So I had the broken hand, I had a torn quad for the first 3 months, and I was playing through that. So I did have a couple little injuries here and there, but I think preparing well, being professional, getting enough sleep, and like I said, having that running form that I developed young, I think that's helped me throughout my career to not favor one side and be symmetrical when I run. And I guess thanks to my parents for good genetics. I don't know.
Thank you.
And that will be it. Thanks for your time, Tyler.
All right, thank you.
At the beginning, I think it was tough for me, but I think I remember the one game, LAFC, when we played away, I actually was starting to feel a little more comfortable with the team. Chemistry was kind of there. But I think outside of soccer was the hardest part, is getting used to the city, not having a home basically to myself, It was kind of an obstacle that I had to take, but it shouldn't affect what was happening on the field.
And did your family ever come up to join you, or is it still a process?
No, I had my wife and kid here, but I still have 2 kids in Austin that didn't really come. So it was kind of a part of my family was kind of away, and we were just here. So it was just a lot to deal with, but I was trying to balance both things, and it was tough. But like I said, when I was on the field, I was trying to focus on to help out the team as much as I could. And sometimes, you go back, you look back into it, and you start thinking to yourself, like, did I do enough to help? And I think we could have all done better, myself and everybody here. I think no one's happy where we're at, especially the last couple of games that you want to get a lot of points and try to push towards it, and you don't get there.
Yeah, and then coming like the team is already fighting for the life. You get here, and it ends up short. What do you take from this season? You think into the off season that can help improve going into next season?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we all need to, like I said, I think everybody needs to do better. We all need to look each other in the mirrors and say, what do I have to do to come next year and start early and start winning games early? I know I've heard people talk in the locker room and they're saying we didn't start strong enough in the year, and I think that's a key part in this league. I think if you start strong, you can definitely keep up with the other teams and don't have to worry about the last 10 games, 8 games to push towards playoffs. And for myself, I know I came in the end, but you have to go in those streaks where you don't lose 2 or 3 games in a row. You need to start winning every 2 or lose 1, but then the next one you have to win no matter what. I think those teams are the ones that make it far. The other thing is, I think if you have a team that you can keep clean sheets or win 1-0 games, those are the teams that are due for playoffs. And I think we could do that, but we can't be letting in a lot of goals. We can't be scoring 4 goals and letting 5, or starting the game 2-0 up and losing these games. At the end of the day, we all need to be prepared for those battles and make sure that if we're winning games, we need to end winning the game, not getting turned around.
You did come in late, so you did not see this team when it was at full strength, and when it played well. It wasn't necessarily getting results, but played quite well. And I'm thinking this is one of the 3, statistically, one of the 3 worst seasons this club has had. But I think coming in, that it's not like coming into a team that's just in a bad situation. I'm just wondering your thoughts on when you look at this club and this team and what can happen next year, where this team is.
I think for this club, it's unacceptable, especially how good of a club it is, everything they've accomplished. I don't think it's good enough what we did this year. And I consider myself as part of the team. Doesn't matter if I come in late or not. I'm here, and it is what it is. I think for this club, we expect to make the playoffs every year, no matter what. And like you said, if it's one of the worst, I think next year everybody needs to step it up and make sure that doesn't happen again. All around, if you look at the squad in a paper, it's an amazing team, good players. We should not be here today saying we didn't make playoffs, because when you look at the team, you're like, you should be making playoffs no matter what. And like you said, I watched them when I was in Austin, and they had a good team, and so it's kind of crazy to think why we're here. I don't know, and it's tough. But like I said, I think next year everybody needs to. Whoever stays, whoever comes, whoever we bring, we all need to step up, make sure a season like this doesn't happen again.
Do you feel like the foundation is here to compete for a championship next year?
Yeah, I think if you look at the players that we have and the players that hopefully we bring in, we should be competing. And like I said, we should be making playoffs every year. It shouldn't matter who you have on the roster. This club is too big and too many histories of being champions to not make playoffs. Like I said, I think it's disappointing about this year, but now we have to move on and try to look into what can we bring next year to make sure we start strong and we end the season strong as well. So the next year when we're here, we can say, you know what, we gave it everything, we made playoffs, and that's what we wanted to
do. Next, we'll go to questions on Zoom. Go ahead, Josh.
Thanks for taking the time. Wanted to get your impressions of Greg Vanney. I know you had a little bit of a short time with him, but just your overall thoughts.
No, I like Greg a lot. I've known him quite a bit from being in the league. He's a good coach and everything. I'm learning new things here. We've had a couple conversations since I've been here. And he's definitely one of those people that you want to have on your side and try to talk to him as much as you can, because he's here to help you grow as a player and as a person outside of soccer. He wants the best for everybody, and I think you saw it after the game how disappointed he was and how we could do better. And at the end of the day, players need to step up. I know people may say, "Oh, coach this, coach that," but we're the ones playing, and everybody from 23 players to the coaching staff, we all take responsibility of not making the playoffs. And like I said, I think next year when we come in, everybody's going to look at themselves in the mirror and say, we need to start strong and finish strong, and this club is too good to not make playoffs.
And I know your move from Austin was maybe a little bit of a shock for you, just in terms of the long-term contract and everything that's sort of gone on. Do you think that affected you at all coming here to the Galaxy, and maybe does next year provide a better fresh start?
I'm going to be honest, it was definitely tough. I had a 10-day-old baby just born right before coming, so it hit me kind of hard to be moved that fast. And things like that happens in life, and you have to deal with it. And I tried to do everything I can to focus on soccer and everything, and it was tough. I got to tell you, it's not easy, especially when you come to a city and you don't really have a home where you can go after training every day and feel like you're at home. Little by little, I have teammates that we would talk outside of soccer and we would hang out, so it made it a little better, which was amazing. So I'm actually looking forward to next year and starting fresh and new and coming in from the beginning and trying to help out as much as I can and feel that I'm at home. I think that's the most important part of it, because when you feel like that, you're happy and you can play your best soccer.
Thanks.
I don't know. I'm in an Airbnb right now. Still looking for a home.
And we have time for one last question. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey Diego, is it even fair to be critical of the squad and not making the playoffs? You know, the way I see it, it's almost as if injuries and all the circumstances rob this team of its ability to even compete this year.
Injuries happen all the time. It's unlucky that how many injuries we've had, and not just here. I think all over the league. But like I said, when you have the players that we have in this locker room and on the team, we should be making playoffs. This club is too big to not be making playoffs. And like I said, I'm very disappointed that we're not making playoffs, because at the end of the day, those are the fun times, and that's when the energy goes higher. Everybody's hyped up. And it's disappointing. But like I said, it's frustrating. But I think next year we need to start strong and finish strong. I think there's a lot of things that have happened this year, and now it's a good year to refresh, look at each other in the mirrors and like say, hey, this is what we need to do for next year. There's nothing we can do now besides just look back and really focus on the errors that we made and fix those things. And now we have a long time to really fix those things and really everyone check themselves out and say, hey, this is what I need to improve in.
And we have one last question. Let's go to Alex.
Hey Diego, thank you so much for your time. You know, right before you got traded to the Galaxy, you were starting for Austin. Now with the Galaxy, you're kind of in and out of the lineup. How do you think that affected you? With your performances with the Galaxy, kind of not having that consistency of knowing whether you're a starter or not every week.
Look, to be honest, when I first came here, I wasn't expecting to start right away. They already had a team set. They had a chemistry on the field, and I wasn't going to be one of those players that got frustrated on it. I just needed to wait for my turn and went in there and tried to help out as much as I can. But now that I'm here, I'm a little more settled. Next year when I start preseason, it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to try to earn my spot and fight for it, no matter who's out there. And like I said, I think one of the conversations I've actually had here was that we need more voices on the field and outside the field. I think we all need to have each other accountable, and we should be able to talk to each other about how to make this team better and how to make each other better. And that's one thing I'm definitely bringing to the table next year and hopefully help out. Like I said, I think everybody is disappointed at how this year ended. But at the end of the day, we need to clear our minds, learn from our mistakes, and come in fresh next year. And like I said, start strong and finish strong.
Thanks for your time, Diego.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, at one point it was like on a personal level, like a roller coaster just going up for me. But still, like, in terms of the team, our standard, it was, most of the season it was kind of going downhill. And I mean, so this season, wouldn't necessarily call it a failure, but it wasn't up to, the standards we all wanted it to be. And personally, I mean, still could have been better. I could have been healthier throughout more parts of the season and just more present. But yeah, a lot to look forward to next season, and a lot to learn from this season.
With your injury, Greg said you dealt with it the whole season, but did it flare with the national team? Is that sort of the timeline?
Yeah, it kind of started a little around, I want to say, April, and then from there it just kept getting worse and worse. And then by the time Gold Cup was happening. That's probably the worst it felt. And then coming back, Leagues Cup. Sorry for touching that. So it felt a little better. I got an injection, but after the Lyon game, I flared up again, dealt with it the next game, and then from there, I'm here now. So, yeah, I kind of dealt with it majority of the season, but it wasn't horribly bad,
And are you now preparing as if you're for 2024, maybe a national team call to start the year, and then on to the Olympics and everything that's on the line for next year?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I can be ready for any camps before the end of this year. That would be like the best case scenario, but yeah, just preparing for 2024 right now.
If the season were still ongoing, would you have a chance to play?
I would think so, but maybe if we reach like conference finals, I think, yeah, a couple more weeks to go.
All of that said, the difficulties, the injury, not being able to be at full strength really at any point, all of that, you stepped up and were impressive and kind of showed yourself as somebody who could be a future, a big figure for this club for the future. And I'm just wondering what were the biggest things that you gained from it, whether that's emotionally or in terms of how it helps your confidence, whatever it was. Just what were the biggest things that you gained from this year and the opportunities that you received?
I think the biggest thing would be confidence and experience. Experience, obviously, my first full MLS season. So getting to play against higher level players, with higher level players, just learning new things, nuances to, certain things during dead balls or, when you're not even near the ball and you're still guarding a player, just stuff like that. And then obviously, confidence too. Having good performances against high level players, it gives you the confidence to think you can keep on doing that and, doing it consistently too, knowing that consistency is also the key in this season, not even personally, but as a collective group too. We all need to be on our, A game throughout the entirety of the season and not just, one game at a time and take maybe a 3-game break from that. We have to do it game in, game out, each day in training too. So just learning stuff like that. There was a lot to learn this season, so hopefully the whole team can take that in and, make it better next year.
Team certainly conceded too many goals and conceded too many easy goals, and that's problems all over the field. When you're looking at in the back, the issues that you guys had in that regard, what do you think needs to be cleaned up, and what were the problems? What needs to happen to clean that up?
Yeah, I think a lot of, looking from the outside, at least during these last couple months, and I'm not saying the problems were just this last couple months, it was when I was still there, it was the entirety of the season. I'd say miscommunication and just players not being on the same page, and it's throughout the entire field. It's not just the defensive line. It's all 3 lines of defense. I would just that was the biggest thing, just not being connected, off the ball too, and just simple things is not covering players, sliding together, being on the same line, communication, decision making, all that.
The way Greg likes to play, you guys have the ball, you're looking to attack. We often see teams realize that, and you guys are attacking into often very crowded attacking thirds.
Mm-hmm.
It also leaves space behind. Do you feel like that's something this team needs to deal with in terms of how to deal with that space and the connectivity among the lines in that?
Yeah, I think our attacking numbers are fine, to be honest. I think it's how we deal with our shape behind the ball when we are attacking. Because, if we want to score goals, then, we're going to have to get numbers up the field. It's, how we can find that balance of having the strength behind the ball and the organization and, guys who are willing to defend when, people want to go forward and score. We have to have people on the team who take pride in defending and stopping counterattacks and keeping the ball in the other opponent's half. So it's just up to that, really, I would say. But I personally like having a lot of numbers forward, obviously in a controlled manner, but, you're going to have to score goals somewhere.
And lastly for me, there's a lot of experience center back and Maya later on, although you're not really healthy when he's here. I'm just wondering, what were the biggest things you gained in dealing with them and being mentored by them?
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, I would say I learned a lot from Caceres just because I was playing with him much more often. But it was a lot of things I would see him do. It was a lot of his actions more than, face-to-face conversations, just because, I mean, language barrier, obviously. And it would be like little stuff on the field, like especially in preseason. We didn't get much reps together during preseason, but just watching him while I was on the other team, noticing how he dealt with certain situations, how he was calm under pressure, how sometimes when he was under too much pressure, just get out of here. That was a problem I'd say I would have the previous 2-3 years. I would try to, play out a lot instead of, just getting the ball up the field when it was, when it was time to do that. Stuff like that. And like I said, just little nuances to marking players, communication, just I would say those three specifically.
And next, we'll start with Zoom questions. We'll go ahead and start with Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Jalen. Thank you so much for your time. Just earlier, maybe like a week ago, you opened a new pitch in your hometown. Since when was that, an idea that you wanted to get going? And I guess, why? It's not often you see a lot of younger players do that, but you have already at the age of 20. If you could just get your thoughts on that process of opening that for your city.
Yeah, so I got the idea, I think, early, like the beginning of 2021, maybe preseason, from Cesar Roldan, because he told me him and his two brothers opened a mini pitch in Pico Rivera. So I got the idea early, thankfully, from them. And then, from there I emailed U.S. Soccer. They replied quickly, maybe in like the next couple days. And then, it's been a process ever since then. There's been a couple stages of, stalling just because I had to figure out where the funding was going to come from and, who wanted to sponsor the field and things like that. And, everybody had to be on the same page, the city, U.S. Soccer, Herbalife, Galaxy Foundation, me, everyone. So it was a smooth process in the end, I would say. But, getting the opportunity to do that so early, I have to thank Cesar for bringing that up to me and helping me reach out to U.S. Soccer as well because, I had questions and he would answer. So he was helping me a lot during the process too. So I'd have to credit him. But since I would say like February of 2021 maybe.
Yeah, and also too, I guess maybe more on the field. What's an aspect of your game that you really want to work on this offseason?
I'd probably say my physical attributes and just my leadership. I think on the ball, I have the qualities of that, a ball-playing center back. I can still obviously get better, and I will. That's one improvement I want to make this offseason, probably my longer balls. But, just getting stronger, filling out my frame, and then having more of a vocal presence on the field, leadership presence in the locker room too, amongst these guys. I know it's a lot of like older players, but that just gives me more motivation to kind of be a leader.
Thanks, Jalen.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Mike.
Hey, Jalen. I know you're not the coach, but you're a smart guy, so I wanted to ask you a quick question here. The Galaxy gave up the most goals in the league this season. I believe it was 67. Why does the team give up so many goals in transition so easily? Because you mentioned it earlier, you got to push numbers up to be able to do that possession game. But it's been like that for a while. And, like I said, you're in training every day. Is it tactics? Is it personnel issue? Like, I'm just trying to figure it out, man.
Yeah, it's very related to what I said earlier. Yeah, we get a lot of numbers up the field, but, we need guys who really want to defend and, take pride in that, kind of look forward to, defending, They don't look for those boring games that, they get one action of defending, one tackle in, and it's, an easy night. We need players who, want to get stuck in, want to make those challenges, make interceptions, stop those counterattacks, all that. And I mean, obviously, there were a lot of times during the season we would get maybe too many numbers forward and leave ourselves vulnerable in the counterattack, defending it. And we need to also learn from that. But that's the thing. We need to learn from our mistakes this season, and we need to learn from them quick also and, apply the improvements quicker as well, I think.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any other questions on Zoom? I think that's it for Zoom. Thank you so much for your time.
Started ball striking yet?
Hmm?
You started striking?
No, not really. Yeah, just like 10-yard passes. Yeah. Still, hitting it hard kind of hurts my groin still. Yeah.
Rob, did you have a question on Zoom?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Jalen,
Yeah,
just to piggyback
Eating all
on
off season
what...
too.
Hold on, go ahead,
so-
Rob. Yep.
Hey, Jalen, just to piggyback on what Alex asked with the mini pitch, it's not your first action doing humanitarian work. You've recently been honored by the Galaxy as Humanitarian of the Year for them. You're one of the former Galaxy players that came through the academy. Julian Araujo also was honored a couple times for his humanitarian work. I know a lot of this is for you familial upbringing. I know Galaxy Mom has kind of put that into you guys as values as a family. But on the sporting side, is that something that the Galaxy Academy talks to you guys about, the values that they try to instill in you? Can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, ever since I was in the academy, especially after I joined the high school, there would be opportunities that the learning coaches would give us to go to, I forgot the name of the elementary school, but there's a nearby elementary school maybe 5-10 minutes away. And we would go there for maybe 2-3 hours, help with some dishes, help organize folders, water plants, community stuff like that. And then there were other times too, like as a whole team, we would go do things like that, kind of like community outreach things. And yeah, they would instill those values in us from early on too. And they would make it, very important to us that, you're not just a soccer player at the end of the day, you're a human, and, there's good values you have to hold within yourself. So yeah, they helped a lot with that too. In addition to, I say my mom a lot, but my whole family, to be honest. Yeah, Galaxy definitely does that, and they still do. I was just at the last academy event as their season's about to, or maybe has started already, but I was there, and yeah, the values are still the same as when I was there.
I know that the mini pitch took a couple of months to come to fruition. Do you have a new project that you're already eyeing, or maybe something in the works?
I still want to open up an entire sports facility in Lakewood, not just, for soccer, but soccer, basketball, volleyball, a gym, maybe a pool, a jacuzzi, but that's much towards the future. That's just an idea right now. But the mini pitch was once an idea also, so hopefully that can come in next 10 years, I would say. But I would say that's like the next big thing I'd plan. Yeah, other small things in my mind, but I have to wait to take action on them.
Thanks, Jan.
Yeah.